An entitled Karen freaks out on me after I took some dishes off the Goodwill shelf that she definitely wanted to resell. Things got so bad that she literally got physical with me, all because I took something that she literally didn't even bother to put in her cart, resulting in one of the most painfully awkward situations of my entire life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few weeks ago and I just can't stop thinking about it. I went to Goodwill and I saw a really lovely set of wood plates and 2 matching bowls. I actually needed them for their intended purpose, and I was going to grab the stuff, but there was this woman standing in front of them with her phone out, loudly complaining about how she can't find the maker's mark on the dishware as the bottoms were left blank. I assumed that she was one of those resellers as her cart was filled to the brim with glassware, and I did see a leather jacket in there too. So I walked up next to her and I asked if she was going to buy the dishes. She then glared at me and said yes, and told me to get lost and that she was here first. So I said, okay, that's fine, no need to be rude, lady. It was literally just a simple yes or no question. I then walked away to go look elsewhere, and she was now looking in the book section, but the wood dishes were not in her cart. So I walked over, saw them still on the shelf, and I put them in my cart. As I walked away, she came back and noticed I had them in my cart, and she started flipping out on me, telling me that she was going to buy those as they were from some super high-end artist. But I told her, hey, you walked away from the shelf and you left them there. If you really wanted them, then you should have just put them in your cart. She then immediately started grabbing my cart and taking out everything from my cart, such as the hoodie that I found and some vintage Pyrex that I found in a collectible pattern. She said I'm taking money away from good people like her and that she was losing sales because of people like me buying stuff to use and not resell. I then yelled at her to take her hands off of my stuff, and by this point an employee stocking nearby came over and asked what was going on. This lady tried to say that I stole stuff from her cart, but I said she was stealing from mine. Well, the reseller lady looked around and saw a different employee had taken her abandoned cart that she left in the book section and was putting her stuff back. And when that happened, she freaked out. She dropped my stuff and ran after him. I looked at the employee who then just waved me off, and I left with my purchases as soon as I could. Now, I told some people about it, and a close friend said that I should have just given her everything because reselling is her job. And in fact, another friend actually agreed with her. So seriously, am I the jerk here, or am I seriously not at fault? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, anyone saying that you're the jerk here is a complete moron. You're telling me this Karen literally was like, don't touch that. Even though I left it on the shelf, it's still mine. You can't take it away because I'm going to resell it. And it's like, dude, what is wrong with the world right now? Goodwill is literally meant for people to use if they're under like hard times. Like clearly the original poster could have like actually used that instead of having some greedy Karen step in and be like, oh, I get to sell it. Finally, I get to make more money. Fantastic. And don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing people who resell stuff. Like that is a legitimate way of making a living. But if you're gonna act like this Karen in this story, then you are absolutely the problem. So no, you're not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. And the fact that she's trying to paint you as some kind of bad guy in this story, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. Because you actually have every intention of using those dishes the way that they're meant to be used. And you're not some scumbag who's gonna go on the internet and try to scalp it to people who don't know any better. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled friend blew up at me, all because my birthday gift that I got her wasn't nearly expensive enough, as she said I was being stingy by getting something that she felt was cheap. And now she's spreading really bad rumors about me to our mutual friends, and I simply just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so one of my close friends just turned 25, and she threw this big birthday dinner at a fancy restaurant. Beforehand, she told everyone not to go overboard with gifts and that just showing up was enough. So I figured, cool, I'll keep it simple but thoughtful. I put together a little gift basket with some nice skincare stuff, about $40 in total, and a bottle of wine that I know she likes. I added a funny card with some inside jokes and I called it good. At the dinner, she was opening gifts in front of everyone, and when she got to mine, her entire face just dropped. She said thanks in the most flat voice possible and set it aside. And I thought maybe she was just tired or overwhelmed, but no. The next day, she sends me this long text message saying that she was embarrassed to open my gift because other people got her designer stuff, jewelry, and a big gift card. She then said she expected more from me since we were close and that what I gave her felt cheap. But I told her she's the one who said not to go overboard and that I got her something that I knew she would actually enjoy. If she cares more about the price tag than the thought, then that's on her. She hasn't spoken to me since, and now she's telling mutual friends I'm a bad friend for being stingy. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Oh man, I cannot stand people like this because I've actually run into people like this before and they are a nightmare to deal with. Seriously, who in their right mind would be like, oh, I'm sorry, but I was embarrassed opening up your gift. It didn't cost nearly as much money as I wanted it to. Which also is like, man, never mind that you said, hey, don't buy anything expensive. Like, did you forget that lady? Did you forget that one small detail? Like, what's going on right now? You can't ask people not to spend a lot of money on you and then turn around and be like, wow, you didn't spend any money at all. Because it's like, dude, like, didn't you want that? Didn't you want people to not spend a lot of money and get like all these expensive gifts? Why would you say that and then get pissed off at this friend and be like, this wasn't enough? That is just so crappy. Like, seriously, this sounds like a really crappy friend and someone that I would never want to be like associated with ever again. And when it comes to her talking bad about you to like mutual friends, you, by the way, have every right to speak up and speak your piece. Like, you don't have to stay quiet about this. You can absolutely speak up and be like, yeah, well, she's an idiot for expecting this from me. So yeah, this is a crappy friend and hopefully this gets resolved in some way because she's being incredibly rude. My entitled landlord is literally stealing my designated parking spot, as he feels the need to park his stupid car there literally almost every single night, and I'm now at a point where I'm seriously considering just towing him and calling it good, because otherwise I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I'm honestly at a point where I'm about to start losing it. I shell out an extra $150 every month for a designated parking spot. It's written into my lease in bold black and white. That spot is supposed to be mine, period, end of story. But my landlord actually treats it like his personal VIP parking spot. At least 3 nights a week, I come home after a long day at work, and guess what's sitting in my spot? His giant SUV like it owns the place. Half the time, I have to circle the block like an idiot, or park 3 streets over. One night, I was hauling groceries in the rain, and I had to carry everything in soaking wet because he couldn't be bothered to move. Now, I've confronted him multiple times. At first, he would sheepishly move the car, then it turned into excuses. Well, I'm just unloading something. I'll be out in a minute. Relax, it's not that big of a deal. Then last week, when I told him I would call a tow truck next time, he just laughed in my face and said, well, good luck with that. I own the building. And it's like, excuse me? Owning the building doesn't mean you get to rob me of something I pay for every single month. This isn't some kind of casual courtesy. It's part of my lease. He is literally pocketing my money while taking the one thing I'm supposed to get in return. So now I'm sitting here wondering, do I escalate this legally? Do I follow through and tow his stupid truck just to prove a point? Because every time I come home and I see his SUV in my spot, it feels like he's laughing right at me, like I'm some kind of fool for thinking a signed lease means anything. I'm seriously beyond pissed. This isn't just annoying. It feels like I'm being stolen from every single day, and at this point, I just don't know what to do. Oh man, I absolutely would not only start taking pictures of everything that he's doing, but I 100% would also call a tow truck. You're paying $150 for nothing. Like, let's think about that for a second, because you have it absolutely correct. He's robbing you of something that you absolutely deserve. You're entitled to this spot, and this guy's just making a mockery of it. So no, you are definitely not overreacting. This is a really big deal in my opinion, and hopefully something can be done about this, because this is honestly, in my opinion, completely insane. An entitled store attendant turned on me at the drop of a hat and made me feel like trash despite the fact that I've known her for a while and I shop at the store every evening, leaving me in a situation where I feel so depressed that I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work as a clerical staff and I've been shopping at this same little grocery store for years. I stop in almost every evening after work and I know the cashiers by face. Some even smile and ask me how work was, and we would talk and just share experiences and then some. And it's all just been a very normal, friendly routine. Yesterday though, I went in to grab a few things, and when I got to the counter, the girl ringing people up, someone who's checked me out dozens of times before by the way, suddenly snapped at me. She told me I was standing in the wrong spot and that it's the new rule. Now I looked around, but there was no sign, no marking, or anything like that. Being familiar with her, I said, oh, I didn't know. And before I could even move, she basically barked at me, don't argue with me. I work here. If you don't like it, shop somewhere else. Now, just because she was standing behind the register, she thought she had the right to belittle me in front of other customers for no reason. Or maybe because I told her about my job conditions just before I finally got paid. But I stood there shocked because I wasn't even arguing. Instead, I was just caught off guard. I then told her that she could have explained nicely, but then she shot right back. She said to me, you office people always think you know everything. This is my counter, not your desk. And when she said that, that really stung. I already get treated like I'm just clerical staff at work, like what I do just doesn't matter. I deal with it in silence there because it's my workplace place and I have no choice. But to have that thrown in my face at the grocery store by someone who's always been polite before seriously felt like a punch in the gut. Someone in line told her that she was being rude, but she instead ignored it and muttered something to herself. I paid quickly, I left, and I cried in my car. It was not over the rule itself, but because I realized that she saw me the same way people at work do, like I'm nothing. I left feeling humiliated. She turned what should have been a simple checkout into a power trip, because apparently in her mind, she thinks that being a cashier gives her the authority to talk to people like that. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Oh man, if anybody talks to me like that at a store I'm shopping at, let alone one that I'm shopping at every single evening, I would go straight to the manager and be like, hey, you need to correct that person right now. First of all, I want to say that you didn't do anything wrong, and this lady clearly is a piece of garbage. For her to act like you somehow did something wrong, despite the fact that you literally haven't, in my opinion, is some serious insecurity on her part, because I'm willing to bet she's probably going to be stuck behind that grocery store checkout line probably for the rest of her life. Like, just based on her attitude alone, like seriously, she sat there and attacked you over nothing, and you hit the nail on the head in my opinion. This is 100% a power trip. This is her trying to act like some big shot, when in reality, she's some small-minded loser. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would go right back into that store and talk to the manager. Because I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how well you think you know somebody, the second they start talking to you like that is the moment that, yeah, that relationship is over. And in my opinion, that kind of behavior absolutely needs to be punished, especially on the clock. Am I the jerk for refusing to allow my boyfriend's best friend to come over for dinner, all because he's made a complete pigsty of my house more than one time? Here's what's happening. Okay, so my boyfriend, we'll call him David for the sake of the story, has about 5 guy friends in total. And I like all of them, and we've been on good terms for years. About once a month, I tell my boyfriend to invite them over for dinner, and usually I'm the one that cooks, cleans the table, and does the dishes. It's a labor of love, and I enjoy doing it. This tradition has been going on for years too, by the way. Most of them put away their dishes in the dishwasher, but I do the bulk of the work on my own. Now, my boyfriend David is really close with a man that we will call Mark, and about a month ago, Mark broke up with his girlfriend, and he's been hanging out at our place almost every day. We all work from home, so he just shows up in the morning. And for reference, I don't mind this either, and David asked me if it was alright. Now, what I mind though is that Mark is a freaking slob. Multiple coffee mugs all over the house, there's water cups, crumbs on the counter, dirty dishes, even his dirty socks once. I made several comments to Mark that this is not dinner night, and if he's going to be over so much, he is not going to be treated as a guest, and he needs to learn to clean up after himself. But when I said this, he only rolled his eyes at me. I told David 2 weeks ago that Mark needed to learn to pick up after himself. Well, they had a talk eventually, and Mark did make an effort for a few days, but we are literally back to square one. David saw me getting frustrated, so now Mark only comes over once a week, and David is quick to clean up after him. But it still really bugs me the wrong way. So yesterday, when I felt like having people over for dinner, I invited everyone but Mark. And David didn't ask why, but maybe he figured it out, I don't really know. Well, Mark came to pick something up today and asked me why he wasn't invited, and you know what? I told him exactly why. He was surprised and called me petty and said that it was unfair to be singled out over a dirty mug. I told him that unless he changes, I am not cooking for him. He is welcome to come over and have David wait on him, but not me. Now, I don't know if it's important, but the house is David's, but we do live together. He then got upset and called me a jerk, and he left. Now, did I overreact? I mean, honestly, at this point, I can't tell, and right now, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, someone said exactly what I was thinking in the comment section, but maybe this is why the girlfriend broke up with this guy, because this guy really is a complete slob. Think about it, he's going to your place and acting like that? God knows what he was like at home for his girlfriend to deal with. And you know what? This is your home. This guy's disrespecting it every single time he comes over. Like, what kind of house guest would go in there and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna work from home, but I'm also gonna leave a complete mess the entire time. Hey, by the way, here's my dirty socks, sorry about that. Like, at this point, this is not you being petty. This is you quite literally stepping up and being like, wait a second, this is not okay with me. You cannot sit there and ruin my house. That's not fair for me. So no, you're not the jerk, you didn't overreact, and in my opinion, I really think you made the right choice here, because this guy sounds like a real piece of work, and that is not something I would ever want to deal with. My rich entitled clients literally treated their workers like garbage, as I watched them lay off one of their most loyal employees while also firing their nanny under ridiculous circumstances. So I decided to get some revenge by quite literally flooding their bathroom with the grossest sewage you could possibly think of. Here's how I did it. Years ago, I worked cleaning houses, and I had one set of clients who were pretty spoiled and arrogant. The day before I came in, I talked to a friend of mine who had worked long hours as a supervisor on salary in that couple's factory for maybe 15 years. years. Now this guy worked his butt off. He is a minority, and so they paid him as little as they possibly could. And he had known them for a very long time, before it was obvious that they were rich, and was one of their first employees. When I talked to him, he mentioned he had gotten laid off with little notice, and they were trying to put it off as a firing in order to not have to pay his unemployment. And honestly, I was pissed. I knew how hard he worked, and I knew how loyal he was to them. Well, I got to the house that morning, and the couple was not there. But the person that was there was basically like their nanny person that they had for their kids. And for reference, this childcare also operates as a cook and sometimes runs errands for them. She takes care of pretty much all appointments, packing lunches, driving to soccer games, etc. The nanny was crying and I asked her why, and she said that these people do not care about me at all. She says, I do the best I possibly can for them every single day, and I have an emotional investment in these kids, and they're just rude and dismissive. It's all about them. Now, I forget what the last straw was, but I think they wouldn't allow her to visit her mother on her birthday or something like that. Some sort of feudalistic insult. Something on that level. Well, I suggested she quit, and you know what? That's exactly what she did. I could hear the woman yelling at her later, and the nanny left the house crying. Before that, when the woman got home, she told me not to use one of the bathrooms as the toilet was clogged and overflowing, and apparently the plumber would not be able to make it out for another day or two. So I cleaned the entire house, I waited until I got paid in cash and she left the room, and it's here that I decided to take the biggest dump in that toilet I've ever taken in my life, and then I decided to flush it. And yes, as you can probably guess, it went all over the floor. It was so absolutely satisfying and incredibly gross. I mean, it was glorious. She chased me to my car demanding I come back and clean it up, but I just said to her, I'm done. This is not my problem. Clean it up yourself. And then after I said that, I straight up left. When I got home, my roommates told me that she had been calling them nonstop and yelling at them, and simultaneously telling them that I needed to come back and clean that up right now, and that I should never go there ever again. So basically, we're talking like a total meltdown. I told them about my friend who was also their good friend, and about the nanny and that whole situation. A couple of my roommates had also worked for them in the past, and you know what? They all just started teasing her over the phone when she called, which gave us the chance to have a really good laugh about that one because it was so ridiculous. So seriously, be nice to your loyal employees, even the ones who wouldn't ever dream of causing you any problems, because some of them might just snap and do something that you definitely would not expect. Oh man, this is so gross. Like seriously, this is really, really gross, but in my opinion, it sounds like it was probably necessary. These people were massive pieces of crap, and that's so ironic because that's exactly what you flooded their house with. Like who in the right mind would treat their nanny like that? Denying her the chance to see her family and also treating her like garbage. Not to mention the guy that literally was their first employee, and now they're basically gonna be like, oh yeah, we're gonna fire you instead. We don't wanna have to pay for your unemployment. Sorry. I've met people like this, especially managers who are just completely incompetent, and they're loaded, so they act like they just can't do anything wrong, while also subjugating pretty much anybody that works for them to like the most stupid things on planet Earth. So in my opinion, this is a fantastic form of revenge. It's also incredibly gross, and I love the fact that you refuse to clean it up, because if they're gonna treat other people like crap, then congratulations. You get to get on your hands and knees and clean up some literal crap in the process. My sibling seems to think that my car is her personal Uber, as she will literally take it without asking and then leave it with no gas in the tank. But every time I confront her about it, she says I'm being stingy and that I should be supportive of her free lifestyle. And at this point, I'm just so frustrated that I simply don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I've been dealing with this for months now, and it's honestly driving me insane. My sibling has decided that my car is basically theirs whenever they want it. For reference, my sister is 21 years old, and I'm a 24-year-old male, and I worked my butt off to even afford this car in the first place. Insurance, maintenance, gas, it all literally comes out of my pocket. Now, at first, I didn't mind letting her borrow it once in a while for something important like work or school, but now it's just constant. She'll take it to go grab food with her friends, then come back hours later and the gas tank is basically on empty. Like she literally never refills it. She never asked me if I'm okay with her taking it, and sometimes I literally wake up and the car is just gone. The worst part was when I finally snapped and I told her that she needs to at least fill up the tank or stop taking it altogether, because it's here that she called me stingy. She said I was acting like a parent and that I should just be supportive of her freedom. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that being a supportive brother meant funding your joy rides while I'm the one stressing about bills and gas money. It's basically gotten to the point where I'm hiding my keys because I can't trust her to just not take the car without asking. And then she turns around and tells my parents that I'm being dramatic. I honestly feel like I can't win because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, the fact that your sister's acting like that is crazy to to me because this is your car. Like, first of all, you better make sure you hide those keys from here on out because that's crazy. She has no right to take that car whenever she wants. Like, that's not how this works. And it also really sucks that she's just taking it and not filling up the tank again. Like, dude, if you're gonna use it, at least be respectful of my property. So yeah, your sibling sucks and you haven't done anything wrong because what she's doing is very selfish. Am I the jerk for supposedly excluding my ex's new girlfriend? All because I'm trying to have my kid have a good Halloween celebration without bringing along anyone who's gonna disrupt that. Here's what's going on. I'm a 29-year-old female and I'm divorced with a 9-year-old daughter. My daughter's father, who's 32 years old, has been in a relationship with a woman who we will call Stephanie for about 6 months now. And Stephanie has 2 younger daughters, ages 4 and 5. My ex-husband and I have had many conversations about how to ease my own child into their new blended family by making sure that she still has lots of time with her dad, not combining every single special event with the other kids, and keeping lines of communication open. Overall, the introduction has been positive, but my daughter has mentioned that the younger children can be overwhelming and sometimes very annoying. However, despite the conversations, every single special event has been blended, for lack of a better word. Well, we're coming up on Halloween, and my daughter has trick-or-treating plans with her best friend and her family. Also, Halloween is my custody time. My ex-husband asked if he could come along and bring his new girlfriend and her children, but I said no, as I wanted my daughter to be able to have time with her friends without having any of the other little kids in tow. They're not officially her siblings in any way, and I feel that she deserves protected time just for her. My ex-husband says that I am purposefully excluding his new girlfriend, and that I should be more concerned that she doesn't have many friends or others to go out with on that evening. But I feel like that is not my problem, and I'm advocating for my own child without having her feel like she needs to people please or feel guilty. I'm also not asking my daughter for her opinion, as I don't want her to feel burdened with any guilt. I did also invite them to the Halloween event at her school that same week just to help initiate some kind of balance. So am I the jerk here? Because honestly, I just don't know what to do. No, what you're doing is completely reasonable. Your ex-husband's being an idiot, and the fact that he's trying to be like, wait, let me bring everybody along. Like, dude, are you not reading the room? Are you seriously ignoring the fact that your daughter just blatantly doesn't like these other kids? Like, come on, dude, you can't be that obtuse. Like, seriously, open your eyes. So no, you're not excluding anyone, and you're not doing anything wrong. Because if your daughter wants to have private time with her best friend, then that's exactly what she deserves. My entitled aunt steals my computer and gives it to her kid, claiming that they were only borrowing it for a little bit. But I was so angry that I simply was not going to take that sitting down. So I called the cops and I pressed charges. Here's what happened. My entitled cousin has never been into computers and doesn't really have any hobbies, but he will always try to one-up everybody as well as my family. And to be honest, we're all getting sick of it. For instance, a few years ago, I had saved up for almost 2 years, every penny and dime I had to buy a computer, which at the time was really good. I had not told anyone about it besides some friends from school, but somehow my cousin found out, and just a few days later, he had bought an Xbox One and had told the entire family, which of course I don't have a problem with. But then a few hours later, after he bought it, I was in my room on my PC, and he stormed in with a grin on his face and looked at me and said, "I got an Xbox now." I knew what was about to happen, so I calmly said, "I know," without even looking at him. Because I ignored him, I could tell that he was mad. He put his hands on my desk and said, "It's so much stronger than your computer," which it is definitely not. He had only bought an Xbox because he was jealous of my computer. Therefore, he doesn't even know how to use it. With this information, I said, "You can't even watch YouTube on it," and left a small little chuckle at the end for good measure. Of course you can watch YouTube, but he obviously doesn't know that. He then stormed out of my room and looked like he was about to cry. Then, this part is what really made my blood boil. I live in a small city, and a few of my friends live on the opposite side of the city, so it's about a 3-hour drive from where I live. So after a long week of school, I decided to visit my friends. When I arrived, I was really tired and ended up staying late and accidentally falling asleep. Eventually, I had woken up early and realized what had happened, so I gathered my things and I left. After a long journey, I had come home and jumped into my bed. After another short power nap, I had woken up and realized that my computer was missing. At first, I had thought someone had stolen it, because in my bedroom, I have a long sliding door, which is always open in the day and locked right before I I go to bed. Before I panicked any further, I calmed myself down, and I went through the steps mentally of figuring out what I should do next. The first thing that came to my mind was to phone my mom and ask her if anything had happened. When I told her my situation, she was livid. She was as anxious as I was, and after she calmed down, she phoned most of our family members who lived in the area, one of them being my entitled aunt. After a few days of looking, I was hopeless. I went to the police station and I filed a report. Fast forward to a few months later, and I was at my cousin's birthday party, and he had his party at his house, and my aunt had asked my mom to come early to help set up some decorations. Once we arrived, my aunt offered us a drink and took us to the kitchen, which is right next to her TV room. When I turned around the corner, I was livid. There, sitting right in front of me, was my computer, sitting on a foot-long table sideways, and the same cousin from earlier was using it. I started screaming at the top of my voice, "What are you doing?" I rushed over to my cousin, unplugged my computer, and looked at my aunt and said, "Why do you have my computer?" She then says to me, "Oh, we're just borrowing it." And after asking for clarification on what she meant by that, I turned to my cousin and said, "If your Xbox is better, why did you steal my computer?" And I said this in a loud, angry voice. At this point, he ran out of the room while he cried his eyes out. I picked up my computer and stormed to my mom's car. I put it in the trunk and picked up my phone and immediately called the police. I explained my situation and how my computer had been missing for months and that I found it at my aunt and cousin's house. All the while, my aunt and my mom come running out screaming at me. "What do you think you're doing?" is all they could really ask me. I responded with, "What do you think I'm doing?" And at this point, she went silent. A few minutes later, the cops arrived and I explained my situation. And thankfully, the cop was understanding. And after asking if I wanted to press charges, I said that I did. My entitled aunt ended up with a week in jail and a $250 fine, as well as 200 hours of community service. Many of my family members, including my mom, have been messaging me saying that I'm in the wrong. So what do you think? Am I the jerk for this situation? You are not the jerk in that situation, and I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been. These people stole your property. I would be super upset if someone did that to me. There would be no excusing that, especially my computer. Computers can be expensive, and they're not easy to replace. I've always been of the opinion that if you want to play stupid games, you're gonna win stupid prizes, and the aunt got exactly what she deserved. So maybe next time she'll think before she tries to steal. This story came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. If you'd like to submit your own stories, check the links in the description. We would love to hear about your experiences. My boyfriend has been living with me rent-free and makes about 10 times the amount that I do, and I don't know how to bring this up or how to approach this topic of him paying rent at all. My boyfriend and I have been together for about a year. We're both just entering our 30s, and he just started residency, making about 2 times as much money as I do, with the promise of making much more in the future. When we started living together, it sort of just happened when his living situation fell through. I offered to be the one to pay rent since we were planning for the future and talking about getting married, and I told him I know he's going to have to pull the wagon financially a lot then because he would be making about 10 times the amount that I would, so I'd be happy to do it for now. It was a brief conversation, but he agreed. We do split all other bills, including groceries, and he offers to pay when we go out for meals, but I'm basically living paycheck to paycheck. We talk very openly about our financial situations, so he does know about this aspect of my life. However, I'm now starting to feel a growing resentment that he hasn't offered to split the rent, which would be about $500 each. I know I sort of did this to myself with my offer to have him stay here without rent, but I want to be open and ask him about this once again. I just don't want him to feel trapped to do it or misled somehow. The $500 also may actually allow me to save for once and not have to be extremely stringent, and this money would not put a dent on his pocket in the slightest. I guess I'm just worried about how this would be perceived if I did start asking him to suddenly start paying rent. Does anyone have any ideas on how I should handle this situation? Should I give it a year to honor my offer and then start asking to split it? What should I do? I don't think there's anything wrong with approaching this topic with someone who you're obviously open about with this kind of stuff anyways. Like, you can just blatantly tell them, hey, my situation changed and you need to reconsider your financial arrangements. I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with asking. It sounds like this guy is absolutely on your side and he's very open and available, and it sounds like he's going to help if he can. So I don't think there's going to be any kind of conflict in you approaching this topic again. And yeah, you're right. It definitely seems like you're going back on your word. But I think if you consider your financial situation, it will be easy to see that, yeah, you need help with rent. So I think if you're just honest with him and you lay it all out there and tell him the nitty-gritty details about your paycheck at the moment, I'm sure he would be more more than willing to help out with rent and step up and actually help you pay for rent. My ex-girlfriend is acting very weird, especially after we've tried to make things work multiple times, and I just don't know if she's using me or not. So I started dating this girl like 5 months ago. We started talking, but she didn't seem to be that interested in me. For example, whenever I wrote her, she always replied to me like 2 to 3 hours later. I started talking to her friends to make sure that she was still interested in me, and they all gave me a yes, she is 100% still interested. Anyway, times go by, and after a month of seeing each other, we kissed. And we just kissed. We didn't stop dating. We still were together at least 2 to 3 times a week, and when we were together in real life, she always looked happy and wanted to stay with me. Then, when we were texting, she looked just so uninterested. One day, she told me that she wanted me to meet her dad, and that was weird, but that made me think that she was looking for a serious relationship. After 3 weeks since that kiss, she left me. She didn't even tell me why. No reason, just straight up left. Of course, I wasn't going to go and beg her to stay with me, so I started to go out with friends and getting to know other people. And while I didn't meet other girls, I did just chill around with my buddies. I eventually met her friends, and they told me she feels guilty for leaving me like that, and that she wants to start a relationship with me again. A week ago, we met up again. She comes to me and says that she's sorry for what she's done to me. She knows that she broke my heart. And that same night, we kissed again, and we were together the whole night, talking and acting like we were a couple again. She wrote me that same night and said that she was too tired to talk, and she was going to write me the next day. That was a week ago. She did not write me back, and there's no way I'm going to write her. I don't want to act like I'm a love addict, but I am still in love with her just a little bit. But after this behavior, I started to think that she might just be using me. But why would she do that? I'm not rich and I'm not that handsome. She doesn't look or act like the kind of girl that uses men, and I'm her first boyfriend too. This is all so very confusing, and I just don't know what to do. I can definitely understand where the original poster is coming from, where they feel like this girl is just using him. I mean, to go from kissing and making up and trying to be like, oh, I'm so sorry for acting like this, only to then disappear and start ghosting him again, is really, really toxic in my opinion. And this kind of behavior simply will not make for a good relationship. There is a possibility that she's playing some form of hard to get, and that she wants you to chase after her and beg for her attention, but that's really, really weird in my opinion, and I personally see that as coming off as really needy. So if that is the case and she's just trying to play games, then I think in my honest opinion, I would take her not responding to your text message, as well as not following through on messaging you back, as a sign that you should just move on and find somebody else. This type of insecurity and this lack of commitment is not going to be healthy, and you will literally just be chasing after a ghost, and I think you can do so much better than that. My fiance is never happy with work, despite going through multiple career changes, and at this point, I don't know what to do. My fiance and I have been together for about 5 years now, and we've been living together for 4, and we've been engaged for about 1 year altogether. When we first met, he had just completed a Peace Corps type of job that kept him in our state, but working out in nature, in places like state parks and trails, stuff along those lines. He was incredibly charming, charismatic, and confident. He was someone who was always in a good mood. He was friendly and ready for anything. Throughout the course of our relationship, he has had a few career changes. His first job had a terrible schedule, from 4 a.m. to 2 p.m., and he was tired and miserable, so I supported him in his job search. He eventually found a job that he stuck with for about 3 years. He was progressing well and making good money. Despite this, he would come home and vent to me about how much he hated it for the hours at the time. No exaggeration, he would come home at 6 o'clock at night and ruminate until he went to bed at 10 o'clock. I tried to be supportive, as well as suggesting that maybe he could see a therapist, as well as maybe switching jobs. He took my advice about switching careers, and so he got a job in trades, with great benefits, great pay, and good hours. It's been about a year since he switched over to this trade job, and he is starting his old pattern again, coming home, venting to me, letting his hatred for the job dominate his thoughts and feelings. At this point, I realize it's probably not the job that he hates, but just the cyclical pattern of negative behavior. And now I literally do not know what else I can do for him. I tried to listen, but I can't listen to his talk about how much he hates his job for 4 to 5 hours a day. We don't do anything else. He declines ideas for date nights, getting out of the house, and just wants to sit around and be miserable. It's impacting my mental health at this point, and I have tried to put boundaries in place for it to stop, but he won't do it. He refuses to see a therapist or talk to a doctor about it, and I am really just at a loss of what to do for him. Some additional points. For starters, we are both financially independent, so it's not a money thing. Also, he is still the same happy-go-lucky person with his friends. I feel cheated out of the person I thought he was when we first got together. They see the best of him, and I get this miserable lump on the couch who is constantly complaining. To make things even more complicated, we're in the middle of closing on a house, and he has to stick to this job until we close, but he's saying he doesn't know if he can make it through the next month. What should I do? It sounds like he definitely needs to get his life straightened out, and until that gets figured out to some degree, I would not look to buy that house yet. I can completely understand where you don't feel like you have any place in the world and your job doesn't satisfy you 100%. I don't know of any job that will do that though. So he's got to find better ways to cope with his negative feelings and thoughts instead of just venting to you and making your life miserable. Unfortunately, it sounds like the original poster has become his default emotional dumping ground. He vents all of his toxic garbage onto this person and then enjoys himself talking to his friends. And this is just really unhealthy for you. So he really needs to find healthy coping mechanisms. And that does not mean that it's got to be you. So finding a therapist or something along those lines really would do him some good. I think also setting some clear boundaries and making those boundaries known would really do him some good. All you can do is try, because otherwise this is just going to be miserable for both of you, and you most definitely do not deserve to be treated that way. My roommate embarrassed me about my sensitive health issues, and I'm not sure how to react or what to do. Here's some background. About 2 years ago, I started to develop a neurological problem with my bladder. Nothing serious, but very embarrassing to deal with, especially on a daily basis. And it took me a long time to regain my confidence in public. Basically, my brain sends wrong signals to my bladder, and I often don't have enough time to rush to the bathroom once I feel the urge to go to the bathroom, if that makes sense. I am followed by several specialists, and I take treatments for this, but currently I cannot leave my home without risking a loss of control. My only solution for the moment, even though I hate it, is to wear diapers. I don't talk to anyone about it. It makes me extremely paranoid in public, and I can't dress the way I want to. In short, it's just awful to deal with. I finally regained some confidence, and for a few months now, I have been able to have a social life once again, especially through my friend Sarah. This is not her real name. We met during my studies. We got along last year, and we finally decided to take an apartment together for our last year at the university. We've been living together for 6 months now, and she's the only person, apart from my parents, I've ended up telling about my problem out of convenience, so that I don't spend my life stressing about her noticing something. About 2 months ago, our relationship cooled down, which all stemmed back to the fact that I couldn't go to a party last second that she wanted me to go to. She blamed me, and since then, I have the impression that she tends to torment me in a rather sadistic way in connection with what I confided to her. Here are some examples of what she'll do. Sometimes when we're in a break during our class, she tells me, while in a conversation with 2 other students, that she is going to the bathroom. Then she asks me if I'm coming too, before taking a falsely embarrassed look and then saying that she's sorry and that she forgot, in a very non-discreet way. It made me very uncomfortable in front of 2 other people that don't know what she's trying to do. Overall though, I think I've learned to mask my panic when my symptoms come up, but sometimes it's not possible. One day I'm taking the bus home with her and her sister, and I suddenly have an emergency in the middle of traffic. Even though I'm technically protected, realizing that I'm going to lose control is always humiliating for me. So she must have seen my face in that moment and saw that I was stressed or uncomfortable and understood what was happening. And she said to me in a falsely sympathetic tone if I was feeling okay because I looked nervous. She then said in a snide tone, "If it's what I think it is, don't worry. No one will be able to see it because, well, you know." Again, the words are compassionate, but in her attitude, I felt like she was about to say it in front of her sister that she knows I have to wear diapers. At that moment, I was on the verge of tears. Another time involved when we were shopping. It was just the 2 of us this time, and again, the same scenario starts happening, where she says something before looking like she regrets it right after. While we're shopping, we pass in front of a store that sells t-shirts that are kind of short, so that they show the bottom of your belly, and she looks at them and says, "Oh, this one would suit you better," before taking back that and saying sorry, while also saying, "Oh wait, you couldn't wear that because you're trying to hide, you know." And these are just a few examples that really hurt me. To sum this up, I really have the impression that she is using this illness against me, all because I couldn't go to a party last second, and that she tries to find every opportunity she can to confront me with my handicap, especially while we're in public. I don't know if I'm paranoid, and I don't know how to talk to her about it either. What should I do? This is honestly actually disturbing to me, that someone would use this kind of information against somebody, all for the sake of trying to humiliate them. This is unbelievably toxic. It's hard to know exactly why someone would do something like this, but I think the punchline here here is that you need to find a new roommate and somewhere else to live. This is someone who absolutely cannot be trusted with anything. What a terrible thing to hang over somebody's head. This situation and the problems you have are already embarrassing enough, let alone to have somebody hang it over your head and threaten to expose you over this at every chance they can get. It's disturbing, it's disgusting, and I honestly can't believe someone would seriously act like this. So in my opinion, I would start looking for a new place to live, because this abusive behavior for me proves that she is not a good friend. In fact, with everything you've described, she is not a friend at all. She is a straight up bully, and you absolutely should not have to ever put up with this. My wife almost cheated on me, and I just found out, and now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Before my wife was even my girlfriend, she was involved with a married man. They didn't go all the way, at least that's what she claims, but came pretty close. Fast forward a year since the above happened, and we're in a relationship. She felt guilty for what she had done, and she told me, which is all good. It wasn't during my time, and it was none of my business. So I frankly forgave her. But the thing is that they had to keep traveling together, not alone, but in a group. In the last trip, when it was almost time to come back, there was a party, and she danced with the guy. I know many people may think a dance is not that much, but in this case, it was. At the time, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, but not engaged yet. She eventually told me about this. She did because she realized that if she didn't, other people in the same traveling group would have told me. We talked about it a few times. Over the years, she gave me a few explanations of why she did, which changed over time. She didn't know anybody at the party, and she wanted to enjoy it. She was just dancing and didn't mean anything about it. She wanted to make sure she didn't have feelings for the guy anymore. All these explanations all differing from the other. But the last explanation was particularly troublesome for me. I confronted her, asking what would happen if she still had feelings for him. Would she have cheated on me to go with him? She answered that we were only a few months into our relationship and that I wasn't that important. And that absolutely floored me. Anyway, she stopped traveling with that group, lost contact with the guy, and we moved on. Eventually, we got engaged and married. We were good together with ups and downs, but generally overall pretty good. Last week, while browsing my Facebook feed, I found an alert that they had become friends online. As soon as they did, he shared a few pictures of the travel when they got intimate together. It crushed me to see the guy hugging her. We talked and I told her I wasn't comfortable with her being in contact with him, and so thankfully she unfriended him. All the story so far is just context. Here's where the juicy part comes in. As soon as we got married, it seemed like a switch flipped on her immediately, and spending quality time together became a less frequent thing, if you know what I mean. We were married and we loved each other, but she always had pretexts as to why we could not spend time together. I got frustrated as to why, given that she clearly didn't have any trouble making out with this guy in front of other people that she knew, yet with her lawfully married husband, she wouldn't spend any time with. After 3 years, I finally linked both things. It's possibly wrong, but I did. She felt about that guy so strongly that she didn't care if other people saw them making out, but she feels so little about me that she doesn't want to be with me more than once a week. I know I shouldn't, but I'm comparing myself to this guy now. I feel so insecure about her feelings towards me that I constantly question why we're even together. I'm about to tell her to leave the house, which by the way is mine. I had it before we got married. If you can think of any reason not to, please, I need to hear it, because I honestly don't know what to do. This is definitely a really tricky situation. Obviously, your wife opened up to you and told you about a moment where she did something that she definitely regrets. And from the looks of it, she seems to be doing everything that you're asking in terms of distancing herself from this guy and trying to stay away. And it seems like after 3 years, you're kind of getting it together and connecting the dots that maybe she didn't care about you the way that you thought she did, which is really unfortunate. This entire marriage and situation definitely sounds like a mess. And I think the two of you really could benefit from having therapy together, some kind of couples counseling or something to work this out, because otherwise this really could cause problems in your relationship. And I just think it would be unwise to make any kind of rash decision without some kind of professional help first to try and mediate. My crazy boss is obsessed with what I do after work and has made it a point to monitor my every move. Things are so bad that he is personally reaching out to my dad, trying to convince him that I am just a disappointment. And I honestly don't know what to do. I am a 24-year-old female and my boss is in his 50s. We work in construction and there are others that act similar to my boss, and it's really got me worried. My boss makes comments about my life outside of work. Mind you, it does not interfere with my work. He has said as much, and it is nothing I'm remotely ashamed of. I've worked in construction for years, and I'm used to the jabs and the insults at this point. The issue with my boss is that he knows my dad and had a long conversation conversation with him, divulging all of this information about me. I'm an adult and entirely financially independent, and I live on my own. I told my dad about some of this stuff, but my dad doesn't care. My boss had a lot of outside of work complaints about me. For starters, he doesn't like the way I park my car. He expects me to back in and takes pictures and lectures me the next day about it. He doesn't like that I drink and play cards with coworkers some nights on Saturdays. I drink wine, but I don't get drunk, and I didn't go home with anybody else. I also am not late to work, and I don't drive when I'm under the influence. He also didn't like that I started dating a guy for 2 months, and for one of those months, the guy I was dating started spending the night. I was told by my boss that I needed to raise my standards for who I date. There are many other situations kind of like this that include my eating habits as well as my gym habits. I am really upset because I'm practically my boss's assistant. We work very closely together on a daily basis. I consider him a friend, but he told my dad all of these private things that have nothing to do with my work, just to try and make him disappointed in me. After everything was said and done, and we were alone in the office, he told me that he's told my dad all of this stuff 3 times in a row, all just to try and get a reaction out of me. He just kept saying, "Your dad was so disappointed in you." I made sure he didn't see it, but I went to my car and I cried later. I want to confront him today. I'm going to be calm and professional. I'm just going to state that I'm an independent adult. My work performance is the only thing that should be of concern to him, and that he is acting extremely inappropriately by monitoring what I do outside of work. And as a side note, I won't be attempting to talk to HR about this, as I don't think they will be very helpful in resolving this. But hopefully this will just take care of this issue and I can just settle this once and for all. This is completely inappropriate behavior from your boss. He is literally walking all over you and he knows no boundaries. It's just really disgusting that he's monitoring you and he's trying to report back to your dad, all to try and make him seem like you're some bad kid, when in reality, you're an adult. You pay your way and you're just working. What you do outside of work literally has nothing to do with him. I would really be suspicious of this behavior, and I 100% would go to HR tomorrow. You can talk to him about this, but I would much rather get something in writing with HR stating that you filed a complaint before he could try and get you fired, which is unfortunately something you need to be careful about. And it's really disappointing that your dad is not being more proactive in telling this guy to buzz off and leave his daughter alone. Like, why hasn't your dad put him in his place? If someone came up to me talking about my daughter and saying all these terrible things, not only would I not want anything to do with him, but I'd also tell him off. This is just weird. To be completely honest, your boss sounds like he's trying to stalk you. And while yes, there are some boundaries that definitely need to be set in what is and isn't appropriate in a work environment, I think you really need to go to HR and file a complaint. And if anything, start looking for another job, because what you're describing is super creepy. And I think you would be much better off and safer working somewhere else, because this guy's a creep and you do not need this in your life. An entitled customer called the manager over something another girl and I did, and neither of us did anything wrong. So I work at a restaurant, but a lot of people order the pastries ahead of time that we serve so they can take the pastries home. I work in the pre-order department, and for one of the orders, I was packing a small fruit tart. I guess as I was walking back to the delivery station, this lady saw me fumbling with the fruit tart. The fruit tart was intact, it wasn't falling apart, but I guess she didn't like that. She asked me for another bag, so I gave it to her, but I didn't pack it because at the moment, a coworker asked me for help. It was a really busy day, so I had to help her. The lady then actually requested for a manager. I was somewhere else, but I could hear a little bit of the conversation. She was ranting to the manager that I was fumbling the bag, and she was mad that I gave her the bag and left to help my coworker. As a side note, we're not required to put stuff in the bag if the bag is an extra one that they requested. The manager talked to me afterwards and told me that that lady is just an idiot and that I should just ignore her. A couple of weeks later, the same lady came back. Another girl in my department was helping her, and the lady was telling my coworker to smile, but it wasn't in a friendly way like, "Honey, smile." No, she was being very pushy and aggressive. I was only a few feet away, and my coworker wasn't being rude or anything. She just wasn't smiling. Also, we were wearing masks, so it's not like she could have seen it anyways. The lady told my coworker to have a good day, and my coworker said, "Thank you, you too." That's when this lady said, "I was being sarcastic. I really hope your day is terrible." And this lady actually was dead serious when she said this too. On the way out, she saw 2 of the managers and started talking to them. She was ranting about the situation for a good 5 minutes. It got to the point where one of the managers started crying. The other manager got the entire department standing in a circle and told us that we need to smile more. I get where they're coming from, but it's completely annoying because it's like the manager just took the customer's side and didn't think about us in the slightest. This lady is likely going to come back, and to be honest, I'm dreading it. I can't stand customers like that, who not only ask you to smile when you're trying to do your job, but also try and make a fuss over everything. Worst of all, I hate managers who act like this. They're the type of people who not only do not deal with these types of conflicts, but they have no backbone in the face of any type of criticism. They literally bend to any customer who comes in and complains. And that is such a toxic work environment because it throws you, the lonely employee, under the bus, even if you haven't done anything wrong. And not all of these managers are bad. The first manager got it. She could see that this woman was a problem. But the two other managers really need to get their act together and stand up for their employees who didn't do anything wrong. That for me is the most enraging part of this story. So hopefully in the long run, you don't plan on working there for the rest of your life, because the managers do not care about the situations you have to deal with, and these entitled Karens are just going to keep coming in and complaining about weird things. And I'm sure you can find a better job where you don't have to deal with this on a daily basis. I damaged my mom's new car, and I'm not sure how to tell my dad, who has anger issues. So I'm really at a loss on how to move forward. Some important info to know off the bat. Recently, my family and I moved to a new place. We needed to get a car, and after a while found a great secondhand one for a good price with some decent miles on it. My dad works abroad and can only come home every few months. My mom also works. So we had to take it back to the garage after a couple of days because of an issue with the gas, and only got it back today. I have been working to get my license, as I currently only have a permit, and myself and my mom were driving back from the garage with our new car. My mom allowed me to drive, and we drove around for a bit so I could practice. Everything was going really well, and we finally arrived home. We live in an apartment complex, and all the cars have their own small select space. Ours is right next to a large barrier holding up the roof of the car complex. The barrier has a lot of marks on it and a couple of dents, showing that it has been hit before, and these barriers have been a nuisance to all of our neighbors, with them next to their spaces. I have even heard them complain and seen them struggle with parking. When I first drove into the space, the car was a little too close to the car next to us, so I reversed and drove in again. Unfortunately, this time I was paying too much attention as to not hit the car next to us, resulting in myself instead hitting the barrier. There aren't any dents or serious damage done to the car, but there are some scratches and some paint scrapes. Quite a lot actually, down alongside where the front lights are. I don't need any advice for what to do next. My mom has tried calming me down and telling me that she will get it looked at by different places and see what the price will be to fix it, and that it's not that bad. But I know she's just trying to make me feel better. She says we can afford to fix it and it won't be that much. But I'm currently in a state of shock. I've cried and I feel so guilty. I know I need to tell my dad. This is big and my first car accident, but I don't know how to tell him. My dad has anger issues. Not bad or abusive, but still anger issues all the same. He contributed a good fraction to my mom to help pay for it. My younger brother accidentally damaged a neighbor's car, which only had some minor damage done when he was a child, and my dad was furious. He doesn't finish his job and won't be back for another couple of months, maybe in November. And even though this is technically my mom's car, it's still something I'm going to need to tell him about. It's also my birthday this week, and I really don't want to have to tell him then. He's in another continent where time zones are almost opposite to us, so there are a few times in the day that we can call. He's asked to see what the car looks like on video, just to check it out, as it is a big purchase. It's not something I can lie about. I'm religious and I know the importance of honesty. Even if I didn't tell him, as we'll have the car fixed by the time he gets home, I know I will have this on my conscience and will feel guilty about this for a long time. How do I go about handling this? What should I do? First and foremost, you need to take a breath and realize you are being way too hard on yourself. All you did was scratch the paint on this car. You didn't pop a tire, you didn't break anything. It's not like this thing is not functional. You only scratched it a little bit. And sure, it might be along the side, but guess what? That can be fixed. And it can honestly most likely be fixed without him even knowing about it. That's not you being dishonest. That's you just fixing it before he needs to know. So I really would not worry about this. I honestly don't think it would be hiding anything. It's fantastic to be honest, but I think there's a difference between being honest and putting your foot in your mouth. Like, does he really need to know that you scratched the side of the car? You and your mom have already worked out how you're gonna get it fixed, and this is literally just a paint job. And then all of your problems go away. If you really are that worried and feel the need to confess to your dad, then by all means have your mom tell him. It sounds like your dad's anger issues really affect you in a negative way, so I don't think you should have to subject yourself to that in any way, shape, or form. For context, the original poster is 18 years old, so I'm sure they're freaking out that this is probably going to be the end of the world, but in all actuality, it's a very easy fix. So don't freak out, talk to your mom, and I really don't think you should just go forward and straight up tell your dad, hey, I scratched the car without you knowing. Just relax and see if you can get it fixed before he gets back, because there's no reason to freak out over something that can easily be fixed. My boyfriend didn't get me anything for my birthday, and I'm still very upset over it. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds very selfish and materialistic. I already know that, trust me. But I need to vent and I want some advice. My boyfriend and I have been together for over a year. In that year, he has not gotten me one gift besides a $75 photo shoot for our 1-year anniversary, which I had to pay in advance and he paid me back. Anyways, I'm trying to not sound materialistic, but I am so tired of this. I got nothing for my birthday last year, nothing for Christmas, nothing for Valentine's Day, nothing for any of our month anniversaries before our 1-year anniversary, which he even tried to ignore. And now again, nothing for my birthday this year. I have gotten him something for each. In fact, this last birthday he had, I spent over $90 on him when I really didn't have the money, but then again, I love him, so I did it anyways. Yesterday was my birthday. I got up when I did, he wished me a happy birthday, and left for work. I got up, showered, got my tire on my car replaced, then drove around and got all of my birthday freebies and saw some family. He got home at about 5 o'clock at night, and I suggested that we should go to dinner because I had coupons, so we could both eat for free. I had a birthday coupon and rewards I was willing to use on him. I was expecting some kind of gift for my birthday because I have gotten him one for every occasion. That one was expected. Well, I asked him about it, and he said he just got paid today, so we could go after dinner to Walmart or something, and I could pick something out. I'm not too keen on picking out my own birthday gift because I'm very indecisive, but I was okay with it, I guess. We finished dinner, and he ended up using the rewards for takeout, then he got something else for 20 bucks. My meal was free, so he was still just paying for himself. We went to Walmart after dinner, and I was walking around pointing stuff out. The most expensive thing I pointed out was $30, and he just kept saying, oh, there goes all my money, and it was so annoying, so I just stopped pointing stuff out. He would then ask me, are you gonna choose anything? I was getting frustrated because I didn't understand why I was picking out my own birthday gift. I asked if he had a limit on how much he wanted to spend, and he said about $15. I held my tongue, but he spent more than that on himself at dinner, and he wastes his money on video games, his scooter, pretty much everything but me. All the while, I've spoiled him with 10 times that amount. We walked through the card aisle, the flower aisle, the candy aisle, and he didn't even bat an eye or even offer. Eventually, we agreed on a movie night instead of picking out a gift. I was annoyed, but I was trying to stay positive. I asked what movie he wanted to watch, and he kept saying, I don't know, as well as I don't care. And the only relative answer I got was nothing girly or any love movies. I was so frustrated at that point, I said never mind, and I just went home. We've been having issues recently, and he even told me that he would put more effort into our relationship. I'm not mad he didn't get me a birthday present, or that he didn't pay for my dinner. I would have even been happy with a handwritten note on a piece of paper of notebook paper. I'm really just mad because he really didn't put any thought into a gift. We've been together for over a year, and he just said that he doesn't know what to get me. It hurts that I always put so much thought into his gifts, even when I'm not sure what he wants, yet he can't even get me a card. My sister ended up taking me out at 10 o'clock at night, and she bought me flowers, candy, and a candle, and held me while I cried. I just wanted him to put thought into a gift, but I didn't get that, and now I don't know what to do. This is really sketchy behavior for a few reasons. You would think your boyfriend would do the basic thing of at least getting like a birthday card or something from the store. Like that does not take a lot of effort. And he's not gotten you anything for Christmas, Valentine's Day, anniversaries. He's even tried to forget about the anniversary altogether. I mean, does this guy care about you at all? I can understand people not like giving gifts, but this guy very clearly likes receiving gifts. So why is he not reciprocating? That's really strange to me. You would think that you would want to give back when someone's given so much to you. I would be super insulted as well if he drove me to Walmart and said, okay, pick something out, but not too expensive. Like, how ridiculous is that? So in my opinion, you absolutely have every reason to be upset. And it's not you being selfish or materialistic. You clearly find value in gift giving, and you wanted to receive a gift of some kind on your birthday, especially from your significant other. So I think if anything, it's time to talk to him about that. You need to explain that, hey, these types of gifts and situations mean a lot to me. There might be a chance that he just doesn't understand that, but even that, he should just know to do that, right? I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I think if you talk to him about it and hopefully communicate that to him, maybe he can change his ways and be more attentive when it comes to those special holidays, because they obviously mean a lot to you, and you want those to be special by receiving a gift. And I really don't think you're asking too much by doing that. My boyfriend ruined my weekend, and now I want to avenge my day while he's out of town, but I'm not sure if that's that's the right plan. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, my boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. We dated for 1.5 years long distance and just moved in together 6 months ago. He is more introverted and I am more extroverted. I love music and dancing and having an occasional drink and love to be outdoors. My boyfriend likes to go camping, kayaking, and spending time in nature. He's actually said he feels like the music and dancing scene is empty and pointless. We have gone out once to a bar, and I could tell he didn't like the techno and was uncomfortable. We have gone on 4 kayaking and hiking trips, and I have loved them and had a lot of fun. I finally got an opportunity to go to a free festival that our city has that he invited me to. I was looking forward to it all work week. I thought of my outfit, how excited I was to dance to live techno and see some art. I was looking forward to exploring the 5 different stages and potentially meeting new people, as I have yet to make a single friend in our town. When the day finally rolls around and I'm on my way to the event, my boyfriend says in all seriousness that my outfit looked terrible and that I was going to make him uncomfortable around families the way I was dressed. My skirt might have been a little bit short, but I had boy shorts underneath and didn't show any more skin than my legs. I was deeply hurt by his words and just wanted to go home and change. We went anyway, but I legit could not stop crying because I felt so cute, and now I just wanted to go home and change. I did find pants, and when I changed, he got upset that I threw my skirt away and changed anyway. I told him that I just wanted him to not be embarrassed by me, but then I think he just started to feel guilty about the way he made me feel, so he was even more upset. I spent the entire night crying at the event. I made no new friends. I didn't even dance. I didn't even look at art because all I was focused on was clothes. I did see one person that I made Facebook friends with that is an admin to the local music page that I follow, but I didn't even want to talk to him because my face was swollen and red from crying so much. We did talk about it and explained that his words hurt me deeply and that he could have just asked me to change or even said it in a nicer way. And afterwards he agreed and he apologized. But there won't be any more events like this one in the near future. And I'm not even upset about what he said anymore, as I am that I didn't get to seize the moment and enjoy myself at the event like I had been waiting to do for months. This weekend there's another kayaking event that we were supposed to go to. I was supposed to go and even made plans to go out of state with friends to meet up there. But a part of me wants to avenge last weekend. I want to go buy new clothes, sell some of my old clothes, and then go out and find some music and just enjoy myself. He promised me that he would never tell me what to wear and what not to wear ever again, but I also don't want to make him feel uncomfortable. I'm getting older and I know that I can't dress like that forever, so I'm okay with getting rid of my fishnets and flashy clothes, but part of me feels sad because I like those clothes. He said I can do whatever I want as far as going on the trip or not, but I can tell he's disappointed that I won't be going. We bond a lot during these trips, but we've gone on so many of these trips, and the one time we go out to do what I want to do and I end up crying the entire night. We are going to Philadelphia next week, and maybe I can avenge the bad day there, but I want it sooner. And part of me knows I'll be more carefree at a club while he's gone, just because he is so shy sometimes when we go out, and it makes me feel bad that I want to go out without him. So my question is, should I stay or should I go on this camping trip that we planned? What should I do? I would really not sell your clothes just because of one bad weekend. Those clothes are harmless, and honestly, they're not that big of a deal. For context, the original poster is only 24 years old. Like, you're not that old where you can't wear those clothes and have a good time. So getting rid of them just to try and grow up or something like that, in my opinion, is just a terrible move. And it sounds like you're only doing that because your boyfriend made a terrible comment about what you're wearing, which in my opinion was super inappropriate. I also find it really disturbing that your boyfriend describes the music and dancing scene that you enjoy as empty and pointless. That to me is just really unfair and is honestly a little bit toxic. It sounds like these music events and these dancing parties are innocent opportunities to meet people and have a good time, and in no way are they some kind of nefarious activity meant to go behind your boyfriend's back or something like that. There's clearly nothing shady going on here. You just enjoy music and you want to dance. But I can completely understand that you want to try and get that weekend back. So in my opinion, if you don't want to go on this camping trip, then don't go. Your boyfriend already said that he understands that he's not going to make you do something, and it sounds like you're on good terms because he apologized and he said he'll never do that again. So I don't think there's going to be any harm in going out and having a good time. My entitled brother demands to propose to his girlfriend at my upcoming wedding, and when I tell him no, he blows up on me and threatens to boycott my wedding. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I'll start this off by saying that my wedding is scheduled for April because my fiance has always dreamed of a spring wedding, and I really like the idea too. I have an older brother though who's 30 years years old. And last Saturday, I was called over to my parents' house to talk about something, but they refused to tell me what it was until I got there. They then sat me down with my brother and told me that my brother wants to use my wedding as the perfect day for him to propose to his girlfriend. I was instantly mad and told them absolutely not, but they ganged up on me. I ended up so enraged to the point that I, one man, somehow backed all three of them into a corner. I told them that if they want to do this, then not only will they all be uninvited, but I'll also cut off the financial support I've been giving monthly since they paid to have my golden child brother go through college by taking out a second mortgage. I landed a decently high-paying job and have been sending $500 to my parents monthly to help ease their mortgage. And I didn't ask for a stake in the ownership of their house either, because I really don't want it. It was entirely out of goodwill, and I can cut it off anytime. I left without speaking anything more to them, but my brother came to my house the next day to yell at me that I ruined his big chance, because now our parents are siding with me and say they'll evict him if he tries to propose at my wedding. He said I was financially blackmailing our parents, and that he just wanted a good chance to propose because he was afraid his girlfriend might leave him soon. I said that was his problem, not mine, because my wedding day is not about him, and if he tries to propose at my wedding, I will have him thrown out. That's not a maybe, but a definite, and I doubt his girlfriend would appreciate her proposal followed up by being tossed out by a bouncer. He yelled a few more choice words at me, then went crying to our surviving grandparent, our maternal grandmother. She then got involved and called me to try and ream me over the phone. No big surprise, but my brother heavily embellished the version of the story that he told her, but she still sided with him after I gave her the real story. She tried to hold her ground, but the verbal backlash I ended up giving her left her crying. That got back to my parents, who were also really upset at me for taking things so far. But I told them I only went that far because I had to when they were all trying to get me to let my brother use my wedding as a springboard for his proposal. They ended up agreeing with me finally, but still stated they feel like I'm crass. And my brother showed up at my house again to scream at me, telling me that I'm the jerk and that he hopes that I'm happy with myself for not allowing him the opportunity. My fiance knows what my brother tried to do, and she's very angry about it. She's almost ready to have him uninvited if he pursues this any further. Normally, I have a very mild temper, but when it comes to certain people like my brother, parents, and grandmother, I can easily get short with them because of all the past favoritism. My grandmother especially. She always sided with my brother and believed his lies no matter what he did. She's the biggest reason my parents favored my brother too. She kept trying to convince me over the phone to let my brother propose at my wedding that I ended up losing it on her. I ended up speaking with my big brother again and threatened to tell his girlfriend if he was still intending to propose at my wedding without my permission. He took this very poorly and called me an awful person. So I pointed out that my wedding isn't about him. Our parents were there for this and they backed me up. I think my brother did a double take when they did that. My dad pointed out that he'd raised my brother wrong and that was on him. So from now on, my brother was to show them real respect, and they wanted to get an official lease drawn up for him to pay proper rent and utilities. He was only paying them $300 a month without contributing to utilities or food, and if he doesn't want to pay, he can move out and they'll rent his room to someone else. My brother turned to our mom for help, but she agreed with my dad. He looked like he was having a conniption fit and then left the house. He came back after a couple of hours, but spoke to no one and locked himself inside of his room. 2 days later, my brother announced he was moving in with grandma because she invited him, and our parents basically told him that if he wants to live with her, then go right ahead. My brother responded to this by saying that we all hate him for just wanting to propose to his girlfriend, but my parents pointed out that it's not that he wanted to propose, but where he wanted to do it, and he would get no support for it. He's refusing to talk to our parents now, and my grandmother did try to call me again, but it ended up with me telling her that my brother will not be allowed to propose at my wedding, plain and simple, so he can just get over it or just not show up. And the same goes for her. I ended up calling her out for her favoritism towards my brother since we were kids, which she tried to deny at first, but couldn't keep doing so because of how much I'd pointed it out. She ended up crying again, while I told her that if she keeps trying to insist on this, then she won't be coming to my wedding. She begged me not to rescind her invite, but still said she doesn't understand why I couldn't let my brother have his way before ending the call. My fiance is 100% on my side and is fully ready to remove my brother and grandmother from the wedding. My grandmother hasn't called again, and she's not talking talking to my parents either. My guess is my brother went crying to her again to tell her mommy and daddy weren't enabling him anymore, so she offered for him to move in with her. But there's literally nothing she can do to sway me, and I think my last conversation with her made her realize that. Now, I didn't wish to tell my brother's girlfriend, but in a roundabout way, she found out what was going on. So she ended up tearing my brother a new one, and he still tried to justify himself to her. That's when she told him that they were through and cut all contact with him. My brother, of course, blamed me, even though his girlfriend said that she's been ready to leave him for a while now, and if he had tried to propose no matter where, she would have told him no. So that's it. My brother showed up at my place one more time to have a fit and said to me that he's boycotting my wedding. He actually thought he had leverage that he and grandma won't go. I said I wouldn't miss him and that he's in his 30s now and he needs to grow up. Our parents have cut him off and are no longer supporting him, and they're already repainting his room to rent it to somebody else. And they plan on renting out my old bedroom as well because they need the money after the financial hole he left them in after dropping out of college just to mooch off of them for a while and then get a degree with online college later, and then barely paying any rent while also making them pay for his food and utilities despite having a good job. They spent the world on him, and he hasn't been the least bit grateful. That made my brother just shut down and leave, and since then we've not heard a peep out of him. And yes, I have very good security hired for the wedding, and they'll toss my brother out like bouncers in a heartbeat if he decides to show up. How insane is that? The audacity of someone to try and come to your wedding just to propose and take away from your special day is literally so disgusting. You have to be so unbelievably entitled to try and pull that off. That's so disturbing to me. It's nice to see that everyone in the family, for the most part, eventually came around and sided with the original poster. I can't imagine anybody trying to justify another family member proposing at your wedding. That's so disgusting and inappropriate. So hopefully everything goes well and this entitled brother doesn't show up, because otherwise there's just gonna be trouble. I have been lying about my education and past professional experience to the guy I've been dating for 6 months, and I don't know what to do. First, some context. When I was 18, I started studying in university, but back then I was severely depressed and ended up staying longer than necessary and still didn't finish the degree. After 5 years, I went to another university, finished this second degree, and now I've finished my master's related to this new field and will start working next week. Back in March of 2022, 4 months after the end of my past relationship, I decided to try and date again, but I wasn't looking for anything serious. I ended up meeting this guy in a dating app who was extremely accomplished, intelligent, highly educated, and so forth. He asked about my academic background and professional experience, and instead of telling him I never finished my first degree and ended up studying somewhere else, which is why I have zero relevant professional experience at this age, I ended up lying by saying I had actually completed my degree at my first university and had worked for 1 year at a company I had never worked at before I decided to study again. I felt extremely self-conscious about my background, and I just assumed he wouldn't be interested in me if he knew the truth. But more than that, I honestly wasn't expecting that we would still be dating 6 months later. We are not exactly official, but we are exclusive. I haven't met his family or anything, but I did meet his best friend last week, and he told this best friend that I had worked at this supposed company, so I ended up lying to his best friend as well, as I definitely did not work at that company. I just don't know what to do. This is the only lie I told, and it's such a stupid one, only because I felt extremely insecure for having failed that first degree and being a 29-year-old with no relevant professional experience. He's becoming well known in his professional field, and I'm just starting my career now, so it just feels like we are several worlds apart, or maybe this is just my insecurities talking. The problem is that I'm starting to really like him, and I find myself missing him more often than not. Either way, I am extremely embarrassed now. I want to come clean because this lie is eating me alive, but I am afraid that he would never be able to forgive me for that. Maybe if I told the truth in the beginning, but not now. He is an extremely honest person and takes these kinds of things very seriously. What should I do? I honestly don't think it's too late to come clean and tell him the truth. I really think it would be better to do it sooner than later. Sure, it's gonna be embarrassing. It's never easy owning up to a lie, but you know what? You're gonna feel a lot better when you come clean. And if you actually see a possibility of some kind of future with this guy, then you definitely need to come clean. My parents have given me an ultimatum, stating that if I go to college with my girlfriend, they will disown me, and I honestly don't know what to do. For some context, me and my girlfriend have been together for almost 2 years, and the situation is quite dire. The costs are so high where it is, and we're just trying to get it figured out. My girlfriend and I thought it would be wise, not just for our happiness sake, but for money reasons, if we found a room and a small apartment together and split it amongst ourselves. That way, there was no wasting transportation just to see each other, and we would get to spend more time together. And we can help each other with our assignments, while having a shoulder to lean on while we're in the city for general reasons. I brought this up to my mom, saying I think it would be the best idea for saving money, and that I would like to be with my girlfriend and to be happy. But she took this very offensively, getting very mad at me. She started shouting, saying it's very stupid and wants me to get a room alone. And she doesn't care if it costs a lot more. Due to my mom not working and a large family, we are entitled to a grant that pays off my college fees. She uses this against me, saying if I move in with my girlfriend, she will cut off everything with me and disown me in the process. My dad is also agreeing with my mother and is also very aggressively against this. Fast forward to a day after this argument, and my mother has taken it upon herself to book me student accommodations, all while I was working, and barely consulting me, besides asking for information over text messaging. She has now also already paid a deposit, saying there's no going back now. And now my girlfriend is left looking for a room by herself. And this is in a city where it's very hard to find places. And even if you do find a place, it's still very expensive. My mother has gone as far as to ask me to write a piece of paper out stating that I am not moving in with her for college. My girlfriend's family are okay with the thought of us moving in together. However, my mother and father threaten if I do so, I am going to be disowned from the family and they will cut me off from my grant. Anyone have any advice on what to do in this situation? Because I'm honestly not sure what to do. Just so everyone's aware, the person in this story is 19 years old. They are an adult, they can make decisions for themselves, and they've made the decision that, hey, I want to live with my girlfriend, but his controlling parents are deciding what he can and can't do with his life, which in my opinion is just not fair. They should not have a say in what he can and cannot do and where he can and cannot live. That, in my opinion, is not acceptable. The fact that the parents are acting like this just seems like a really weird stance to take. I mean, is there something about this girl that makes him say, no, we do not want our son living with her? It's bad enough that his girlfriend has to try and find a place to live now, but it could have been easier if they were looking together and shared the cost in this big city. Obviously, there's probably a lot of nuance to the grants that you're receiving, but I would personally go to financial aid like today and see if there's any way you can take control of the grants that you have received, as well as possibly pushing your parents aside. That is, if that's what you want to do. Because this controlling attitude and the way they're trying to dictate where you can and cannot live, in my opinion, is super inappropriate. So hopefully this gets worked out, and hopefully you're able to find some kind of accommodation for your girlfriend, even if you can't live with her. Because that's going to be super expensive either way, and that's really not fair for her to be left in the dark, all because your parents are super controlling and being really weird. My wife and I were planning on living in Europe for 3 months, and then suddenly, with less than a week to go, my wife backs out, and I really don't know what to do. The title says it all. My wife and I have plans to live in 3 cities in Europe for a month each, and we are leaving in less than a week. My wife says she's changed her mind suddenly, but that I should still go. We've gone around a few times, semi-arguing about it, and she gives no real reason other than not feeling up to it anymore. Plane tickets were by far the biggest cost and hurdle to this trip, which we bought about 6 months ago, so it's not as if she could just change her mind and join me later without it costing who knows how much. We've done this twice in the past, once to Puerto Rico and once to Colombia, and she has always said that she loved it, hence why we spent a little bit extra to go to Europe this time around. I'm not sure how to take this sudden and unexpected change of heart, as well as her apparently thinking all of a sudden that living apart for 3 months is no big deal. She studied in China for a semester during grad school, and we both agreed it felt way too long to be out of touch with each other's everyday lives. Canceling everything completely at this stage would result in next to no refunds for the most of it, and basically wasting about $20,000. I mean, I am fine going by myself if I have to, and it's not as if I'd get lonely or bored without her. I'd still be working 3 12-hour days, and the extrovert hidden inside of me has no self-confidence issues when it comes to sightseeing on my own, but it's somewhat of a letdown knowing I would be having all these potentially memorable experiences while she decided to stay home for an undefined reason. Should I insist on pushing for a real reason on why she's changing her mind? Is it truly possible she has no real reason? Again, it's completely baffling to me, but trying to dig deeper leads nowhere except arguing in circles. Should I just go anyway and leave her decision a forever mystery? I feel as if this is somehow going to come back and bite me me one day, though she assures me it's all her and nothing against me. What should I do? This seems super sketchy to me. Why would somebody all of the sudden say, nah, I don't want to go to Europe for 3 months, after spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on it? That just seems really sketchy in my opinion. There is very clearly something going on that you're not aware of, and that is honestly not a good sign. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely still be going on this trip. After all that money spent, there's no way I'm not going. That's money straight down the drain just because my partner suddenly decides, I don't want to go. That's really selfish and unfair. Maybe that's just me, let me know in the comment section. But to all of a sudden, a week away from when you're supposed to leave, suddenly tell somebody that no, I don't want to live abroad for 3 months. And yes, I'm fully aware we spent $20,000 is incredibly toxic and so disturbing to me. And worst of all, she can't give you a solid reason as to why she doesn't want to go. You've gone on trips to Puerto Rico, you've gone on trips to Colombia, and you both feel after her trip to China that no, we don't want to be apart that long again. So I think it's time for you to put on your investigation hat and really get to the bottom of this, because canceling your plans all of a sudden is not fair. And unless she can give you a solid reason as to why she doesn't want to go, she's literally just being selfish. Today, I messed up by telling my boyfriend that I didn't like his dad. So I've been dating my boyfriend for a little over a year now. We have several differences in terms of family, culture, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Both our families had a tough time accepting each other, but we have put in significant efforts to ensure that we both are respected and accepted by our respective families. His father commented on my weight the very first time he saw me. He also has a problem with the kind of clothes that I wear and my overall lifestyle, which mostly has to be kept a secret from his family because they won't be able to accept my independent Western lifestyle. I live alone with my dog away from my abusive family. I do not speak to my father, and I try to be detached from my overly emotionally dependent mother. My partner is my sole emotional support, and he tries his best to be by me, but he is also too attached to his father, who is 73 years old and frail and needs to be taken care of. Because of his conservative father, I barely get any time with him, since he has to cater to him most of the time. Whenever I visit his place, his sister also must be present, because otherwise, apparently it would be disrespectful to the father. I cannot wear what I am comfortable in, I cannot display affection towards my boyfriend, or be myself overall. The father also has a problem with him pampering me too much, as it conflicted with their cultural expectations. Recently, I had a surgery and my movements are restricted. I would have loved for him to take care of me, but he could only see me for a few hours on the weekends because he cannot leave his dad alone. I also cannot go and stay with him at his place because his sister won't be there. To be fair, my dog is also very active, and that's kind of dangerous for his father. As a result of all of this, my anger has definitely been piling up on his father, but I ended up blasting it all on my partner. Now I feel like absolute garbage because I know he loves his father, and what I had to say did not bode well with him. I'm also questioning my overall future with him because he is too attached to his family, while I do not see myself being close to anyone but him. Also, he wants to get married, have a family, and have kids, as well as give his father grandchildren, but I don't want kids at all. We did discuss kids before getting into the relationship, and it wasn't a deal breaker for him because we really liked each other. It still really isn't. However, I feel that he would be more at peace in a traditional family setting overall, especially considering how his father acts. I'm now at a point where I don't know if I should just break up with him immediately. My head says yes, but my heart says no, because the abandoned child in me loves the kind of love and care he gives me, and I'm scared I'll never find it again. What should I do? I gotta be honest, it doesn't sound like you two are good for each other. I understand that you don't want to be separated from somebody that you love, especially your significant other, because of like previous trauma and stuff like that, but it seems like you two have very different goals. Your boyfriend very much loves his dad. He wants to be there for him and to take care of him, maybe out of obligation, but either way he wants to be there for him. On the other hand, you don't like him being around his family that much, and you only see yourself ever only loving him, which can be okay, but I mean that just doesn't seem fair for him. So he's got to give up his entire family just to only love you? It seems like there's a lot of little things that are not matching up that really need to be considered in this relationship. So hopefully you can find some kind of resolution to this, because from the outside looking in, and how you've described the small things that keep interfering with your relationship, it just does not seem like this is going to last in the long term. My entitled Karen friend refuses to take me to the hospital right after my water broke, saying that we could just have the baby at her house instead. Here's what happened. This happened a few decades ago. So I had been somewhere with my friends, and afterward they invited me to visit their home for a while in the evening. We stopped by a corner store for snacks, and while perusing some of the goodies, it felt like I suddenly had peed myself. I was full term and my water had broken inside the store. It wasn't anything extreme, but it was a pretty good sign that my baby would be here quite soon. So I told my friends with whom I was riding, and then we went to her house. At first I thought it was to drop her kids off with her husband, and then she would take me to the hospital. But when we arrived, we went inside and I told her, okay, now I gotta get to the hospital. I knew this because I had already been there a few days before for a false labor, and the doctor literally told me that it will be any day now. But my friend's response absolutely blew my mind. She said, no, you can have the baby here. She was just cool as a cucumber saying this as well. Since I was getting into a more advanced phase of labor pretty quickly, I couldn't remain standing. So she got some towels for me to sit on so I wouldn't get her sofa wet while sitting on it. She was seriously going to try to force me to have my baby at her house. I told her again, no, you don't understand. I need to get to the hospital. But she wouldn't budge. Well, I wasn't willing to do this at her house with her husband and her kids there. I had a doctor and a hospital all arranged, and the last possible second, she decides to try and hold me hostage and force me to have my baby at her house. I said I needed to use the phone. There were no cell phones back then when this happened, so I used her house phone and called my mom and covered the phone with my mouth and my hand and spoke very quietly, whispering directly into the phone. I said I'm at my friend's house, my water just broke, and she is refusing to take me to the hospital. My mom replied quickly and said, I'll be right there. She didn't live far away, so in a few minutes there was a knock at the door. They answered and my mom said, I'm here to get my daughter. She brought one of the neighbors to help her out. They burst into the door after saying that, and one on each side, they grabbed me and carried me to the car. The labor was so advanced I could barely stand anymore. They were racing to the hospital and got me there just in time to get me prepped and call my doctor. The doctor made it on very short notice, and in a few minutes my new baby was here. But what my friend did was infuriating to me. It just sucked the joy out of my entire experience. After that, I knew she could not be trusted. I did not go to a doctor and make arrangements to have a safe birth and protect my baby in case there was any last-minute problems, just to have someone try and hijack my baby's birth and force me to do what she decided just because I was stuck with her at that time. And she made no efforts at her house to get anything ready. I guess she thought that this was just gonna happen on her dirty floors. I mean, honestly, who does that? Who hijacks someone else's labor, basically holds them hostage, and forces them to forego the sanitary hospital where any birth emergencies can be dealt with by an experienced physician and hospital staff, and all the benefits of advanced medical care one has access to in a hospital. And worst of all, after this happened, this lady never apologized. Thankfully, I moved pretty soon after that, and I haven't seen them in several years. How crazy do you have to be to try and force someone to have birth at your own house? First off, who would want that? That sounds like a miserable experience for everybody around. There's about to be a small human on your floor. You really want to deal with that? I'd rather have a doctor deal with that. I wouldn't know the first thing of how to handle that. Crazy stuff all around, and good for this original poster for cutting this person out of their life, because this person is very clearly not your friend, and she does not have your best interests in mind in the slightest. My wife just told me that she's in love with another man, and I honestly don't know what to do. 4 years ago, I had a roommate, and we partied a lot. I made my fair share of mistakes, and so did my girlfriend at the time. We both cheated on each other, but not in a physical way, but we both categorized it as cheating, and it was her with my roommate. In October of 2018, my girlfriend and I got married. 4 years later, I've got a 2-year-old son, and my relationship with my wife has been good. It has been rocky at times, but we've always stayed connected at a good level. There were about 3 to 4 times early on in our marriage when she was struggling with my cheating on her and messaged my ex-roommate to get back at me. I don't know what their conversation said, but she said it was mostly venting, and then she would send him a message saying, I miss you, and then she would block him. She would admit to me after each time she would message him, and was always an emotional mess. We finally got to a point that he was blocked on everything, and she hasn't been in communication with him for over a year. Fast forward to a month ago, my wife was acting really weird for a few days and would not touch me or talk to me. She then admitted she's been having really weird dreams about my ex-roommate that she cheated on me with. She told me that it wasn't anything physical, if you know what I mean, but it was like he almost was trying to tell her something. At this point, I was really distraught by what she said, even though it was just a dream, and told her that I needed her to keep those things to herself in the future unless she felt like it was affecting our relationship and connection, mostly because he has become a pretty big trigger for me and kickstarts a lot of anxiety. Well, fast forward to 3 days ago, and my wife has been extremely distant and doesn't want to spend any time with me, and has been going on long drives drives by herself while I stay home in the evenings. She comes home one night and finally tells me that she not only still has feelings for my ex-roommate that she cheated on me with, but that she is in love with him. She says that she hasn't had any communication with him, but she had a conversation with a mutual friend about a month ago, and the mutual friend told her that my ex-roommate is head over heels for my wife and would marry her tomorrow if he could. She also tells me that she trusts this guy more than anyone in the world, including me, and she doesn't think she would ever be able to stop caring and checking up on him all the time. At this point, I'm devastated. I can't help but think that my marriage is almost over, despite the fact that she tells me she would never leave me for him, even though she has these feelings. I got on her computer the other night while she was gone and found that she's been stalking all of his social media almost daily for the past month and has been listening to all the songs he dedicated to her, as well as listening to playlists labeled as Forbidden Love. She told me that it's not even a competition and she would never consider leaving me, but it's very hard to believe her considering how distant she has been and how much it has affected our relationship. I talked to her again last night and she told me that she thinks we both need to go to therapy to work on this, and that she thinks the only way to have closure with this guy is to meet up with him and talk, which is what she thinks the therapist will tell her as well. I told her that I would consider our relationship over if she were to meet up or talk with this guy in any way, shape, or form. I did tell her, however, that I may be willing to compromise if a therapist told her that talking to him was the only way to resolve this issue. I can't help but feeling like talking to this guy is going to just open up the door further and I'll be completely losing her. I love my wife and would literally do anything for her, but I don't trust her at all right now and it's absolutely destroying me inside. What should I do? Your wife is doing something that's incredibly toxic. She's going after a guy she hasn't even talked to in years, and quite literally, she is in love with a fantasy. She is head over heels for some guy she hasn't talked to in a long time. Like, this guy could be a complete creep at this point in his life. She literally does not know him, and all the red flags are there for this original poster. She's basically saying that she would rather be with this guy than with him, and this is all in spite of their child that they have together. This lady is willing to throw away her marriage just to get with some roommate that she cheated on you with. I mean, in my opinion, this does not sound like a good situation. If I were in your shoes, I would be securing a lawyer like yesterday. There is no way I would move forward without somebody to have my back, especially if my wife is talking about leaving me. This really is a terrible situation, but if you think therapy might help this situation, I think you can go ahead and do it. But to be completely honest, this does not look promising, and I would just be ready to protect yourself as well as your child in case your wife decides to leave you. My friend is extremely toxic and very manipulative, and I don't know how to handle them or what to do in this situation. The title says it all. I'm struggling to maintain a relationship with one of my longtime friends due to how toxic and manipulative they act. So for a bit of context, I have been friends with her since I was around 16 years old. We met while we were in high school, and we have formed a very close friendship since then. I would probably call her my closest and best friend. Recently, her behavior has become more and more toxic and manipulative. I could write a huge post about all the instances I could recall, but I will give some short examples to keep it brief. She has told multiple lies about me as well as our other mutual friends to many other people, and most of the times these allegations involve serious stuff. She also likes painting herself as if she has done nothing wrong, which is just honestly not the case. She often tries to gaslight me whenever we argue and invalidate my feelings, making it seem as if I'm causing an issue when I'm just trying to express my feelings about how she has treated me. She can be quite unreliable, making plans and then canceling last minute at the expense of everyone else around her. I could go on further about her behavior, but I'll get down to my main point. Our mutual friend group and myself have begun to discuss her behavior and share our experiences of it with one another. After doing so, we are at a loss on how to deal with her. Some people want to organize an intervention for her as a last resort, and others want to just cut her off entirely. I understand that most people will read this and come to the conclusion that cutting her off is the healthiest choice. However, I want to try my best to rectify this situation and see if she can resolve her issues and behavior. She is a very good friend of mine, and I know that she is capable of being better. Does anyone have any similar experiences or helpful advice that they could share? If an intervention is a good idea, how should we go about organizing one? What should I do? I've got to be honest, when someone starts making up lies that include serious accusations and then goes around gaslighting people and trying to invalidate how you feel, as well as causing issues and all these other problems, this is not someone that I would then consider a friend. And you know what? I don't think you need an intervention to cut this person out of your your life. If I was a friend in this friend group, I would have cut her off a long time ago and said, guys, if you keep hanging out with her, I'm not going to stick around. I do not need to have that kind of energy in my life, and I refuse to let anybody talk to me like that. I don't care who they are, especially when there's repeated behavior like this that only proves that they are not willing to change. And that is honestly not my fault. I think if you really did want to have some kind of intervention, you certainly could, but I can only see this making things worse, because this doesn't sound like this is someone who wants to change. And sure, if you're not comfortable with just completely cutting her off all of a sudden, then you can take the slow approach and slowly but surely gradually distance yourself away from this person, while also trying to find some kind of healthy relationship with others where you can genuinely say they're your friend and they're not going to be abusive towards you, which is exactly what this person has been to you. So hopefully this goes well, because at the end of the day, you can't force somebody to change, especially if they are not willing to change themselves. My family acts as if I'm committing a crime for not marrying someone with a good profession, so I can stay home and never work. And at this point, I just don't know how to deal with this. I come from a culture which believes that only stupid people marry for love. This brainwashing has come back up when a family member of mine kept flaunting her wealth. As a side note, she did not earn any of this money, but she married someone who did earn all that money, and she tries to pass it off as her hard work. I felt stupid at dinner yesterday because one of my parents pointed out that this relative of ours will never have to face the same issues I will. And while I disagree logically, emotionally it stung for some reason. They also put so many doubts in my head while comparing me to my relative, saying stuff like, wouldn't you want a life where you can just focus on your well-being? Now, I'm not a career-driven person. I don't mind my job, and I work so we can pay rent and reach our goals. But my family thinks that this isn't the way it should be, and that he already has his wealth set up, and that I should just go enjoy it. But in reality, me and my significant other are both young and figuring out life and have a vision of how we want our married life to be, as well as the plans of what we're going to be working towards. Me and my parents keep having fights because I tell them I wasn't thinking in this way when I met my significant other. I just clicked with him and we went from there. But they keep convincing me I'm making a big mistake and should somehow change course. I just feel so confused and deflated. I really don't care that my significant other is not a doctor, an architect, or a lawyer. These are the professions my family only sees as valid. He has a job and is hardworking, even starting a side business, so he's not some deadbeat. And only if I get to stay home will they see this as a good marriage. I feel like love has nothing to do with how convenient someone is able to make your life. But they don't believe me. I don't want to lose them, but I also don't want my relationship to be ruined due to the thoughts they're putting in my head. I really love my boyfriend, and I don't want my family's toxic conditioning to mess it up, nor do I want to end up not talking to them. My boyfriend and I live in our own apartment, and no, he doesn't know about any of these things that my parents keep saying about him, but he knows they are very religious and kind of toxic sometimes. What should I do? In my opinion, I really do think that you should tell your boyfriend exactly what your family is saying about him. It's better to say it now than 10 years down the line when they're saying this behind his back and he finds out in some roundabout way. That would be absolutely tragic. And I honestly don't blame you for saying, you know what, I love my significant other and I want to marry them just as they are. And I don't care that they are not rich. That, in my opinion, is how any loving marriage should be. You should love the person for who they are and what they bring to the table. And I'm not talking about financially. Your family also seems very toxic. Their attitude towards marriage and how you should just marry somebody who's rich basically is such a terrible precedent to set. I mean, what kind of future does that guarantee for you and your partner? Especially if you don't even know that you love this person. You're only in it for money. How disgusting and shallow can you get? There's obviously cultural differences going on here and I totally understand that, but I think the original poster has it right. If you don't love your partner, then it's really not going to work out. I would much rather be with somebody who loves me for who they are, but they don't have a lot of money, instead of having someone who does have money and they only turn into some controlling psychopath that I'll never get away from. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. I think if anything, it's time to set some serious boundaries with your family. You need to tell them straight up, no, you cannot talk about my future husband like that. I love him and this is just how it's gonna be. And if you setting boundaries pushes them away, then that's their problem. You do not have to deal with those kind of comments and you do not need that kind of energy in your life. Today, I messed up by accusing my boyfriend of cheating. So the title is basically self-explanatory. My boyfriend, by the name of James, that's not his real name, is basically the man of my dreams. 8 years ago, I met him and I fell in love. He checked all the boxes of a good, honest man. He took care of his children, who I have also fell in love with. He had his own place, his own car, and everything. 8 years of love, bliss, acceptance, everything. But lately, things started to become weird and I couldn't understand why. He started to become very secretive. He started giving me one-word answers or very short answers overall. He started becoming very protective of his phone, which is very unlike him, as we have an open door policy on phones. He has the code to mine and I have the code to his. And whenever he looked at his phone, he would smile, and when I would ask him what he was looking at, he would say nothing and quickly put his phone down. This all started about a month ago. I told my closest girlfriends and my sister about all of this, and they all came to the conclusion that he was cheating on me. I thought there is no way in the world he could do that, because that's not his character at all, and they suggested I look up signs of cheating. I did, and he checked all of the boxes of cheating, and to say it broke me is an understatement, and they all comforted me. So I stayed the night at my girlfriend's house, and all night James was calling and texting me. I finally texted him back saying I was spending the night at my girlfriend's house and that I'll be home in the next day or two, and he said okay. 2 nights later, he texted me if I was coming home today, and I said yes. The girls convinced me to go to the house to confront him and that they would be there for support. As we drive to the house, I walked into the house with him standing there with a smile on his face, dressed up to the nines, and as he tries to kiss me, I back away and my friends immediately enter the house and read him the riot act while I stand there trying not to cry my eyes out. As they continue, he finally yells, "What is going on?" And that's when one of my friends says, "You've been cheating on her." My boyfriend then says, "What? No, I haven't. What's going on?" My girlfriend then says that he needs to prove it. As he tries to talk to me, they push him back and tell him not to go near me, and I then tell them to let him through. And then he asks me if I think that he really has been cheating on me. And after that, I shake my head and I say yes. But he defends himself by saying that he hasn't. So then I ask him, "Well, how do I know that? What's your proof?" He then reminds me that today is September 7th. And at first, today's date didn't mean anything to me. It simply was just another date. But eventually, it dawned on me. September 7th is our 8th anniversary, and my friends and I can't believe it. He then tells me that he's been planning this for a month, and he's sorry for being so secretive, but he wanted it to be a surprise. My girlfriends then ask him about why he's being so secretive on the phone in the first place, and further explains that she thinks that just because it's the anniversary of you guys getting together doesn't absolve him of anything. And that's when he says, "You're right." He then takes my hand and looks me in the eyes and says, "Since the day I met you, I knew I found the one. I've wanted to spend the rest of my life with you, and you are the woman I wanted to have my children." He then gets down on one knee and asks me to marry him right there. At this point, it's silent, and between the tears, I say yes, and we become engaged and share hugs and kisses. He then invites my friends to have dinner with all of us. After dinner, things are much lighter, and we are at least able to talk about what happened and have a good laugh. We all eventually apologized for the way we were acting, and he thankfully forgave us all. I'm now just so excited and happy to be newly engaged. If this isn't a lesson in using your words before jumping to crazy conclusions, then I don't know what is. I mean, seriously, what was the original poster thinking? This could have gone horribly. He very easily could have said, "You know what? I don't want to marry you." And also, how on earth can someone prove that they're not cheating? Like, what kind of evidence did you expect him to bring up? Like, how can you possibly prove that you're not being unfaithful? In the end, though, I guess it kind of worked out, but I really think that the original poster needs to work on themselves if they want this marriage to last, because what they just did could have ended horribly, and they're lucky that they have a boyfriend who actually cares. My girlfriend gets very defensive and takes any casual suggestion as an attack on her intelligence, and I honestly don't know what to do. To preface this, yes, I plan on talking to her about this one-on-one very soon, but I'm not entirely sure how. We've been dating for about 6 months, and my girlfriend has a history of emotional abuse from her brother. He would construe stories to other people to make her seem like an idiot or the one in the wrong, especially as a child. He would blame her for things and include enough truth in his stories just for it to be plausible, and then her parents would believe him. As a result, she is swift to isolate anything anyone says to her and call it out if it appears to her as if someone is subtly lying or trying to gaslight. She quickly becomes defensive, assuming the other person is trying to manipulate and gaslight her. The problem is that this has reared its ugly head in our relationship several times and gets ugly quick. For example, an appliance stopped working in her home. I told her when that happens, I usually check the fuse board. Immediately, she was utterly bewildered that I made such an obvious suggestion. Of course, that was the first thing she checked. For me to even suggest something so simple, I must have been subtly attempting to belittle her intelligence. When I move to explain and defend myself, the problem becomes that I'm prioritizing protecting myself instead of acknowledging how I made her feel. It then became a mental spike trap, where if I attempt to move in any direction in the argument, she highlights an entirely unforeseen angle to me, twisting what I'm saying, or highlights an apparent contradiction of what I've said in the discussion, or to some something in the past. It got to the point where I was mentally paralyzed and shut down, fearing I could not formulate anything to say that would not cause her to flip out at me. I had to respond with concise messages just to escape the argument. The only thing I could take from the argument was that if I make a suggestion that might be obvious or she might have thought about, I should highlight it as such. There have been a few things like this, and I realized today it's making me scared to communicate with her. She's on holiday now. Before she left, she realized she didn't have time to shower before going to her friend's house. So I made the suggestion saying, perhaps you already thought of it, but maybe you could just explain to your friend the situation and shower there. But it wasn't enough, and she commented that she, of course, had already thought about doing that. My only alternative would be to passively acknowledge she had a problem and not give any helpful suggestions for fear of a reaction. This was when it clicked for me. I do not want to end up in a relationship where I am scared to suggest much of anything. I spent time formulating that question to soften it as much as possible, half bracing for a negative reaction in case I wasn't going far enough. I've realized I'm scared to make these innocent, well-intended kind of suggestions. I need her to drop this pretense that I am looking to attack her by trying to be helpful. How do I approach this conversation with her? What should I do? The way your girlfriend is acting is completely inappropriate. You've only been dating her for 6 months and this is how she's treating you? I mean, that just doesn't sound like a healthy relationship. And it doesn't sound like you're doing anything crazy. I would personally be very sympathetic and understanding if she was going through something in her personal life and she just needed to vent. And maybe in that moment of weakness, she doesn't need someone to suggest solutions to her problems. She just needs someone to listen. If that were the case, then I would say, yeah, don't give suggestions, just listen. She doesn't want suggestions at this point. But for this situation, this is literally her freaking out over an appliance or over the fact that she couldn't take a shower before she left. The way she is acting is completely irrational and not something you should deal with in the slightest. And you're right, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship either where I'm too afraid to talk to my partner. There's no way that's gonna slide. And these interactions sound like just a normal human conversation. I'm not getting out of this that the original poster is being overbearing in this situation. He is even trying to soften these questions enough where he's basically walking on eggshells. So in my opinion, the original poster is not the problem, it's the girlfriend. If I were in your shoes, as soon as she comes back, I would say, look, we need to have a talk. And then I would lay out exactly how I feel. If she's more than willing to put you down and speak so terribly to you after making a simple suggestion, such as looking at the fuse box if the appliance isn't working, then by all means she should be ready to have the truth broken to her. That's just my opinion on this matter. You should not have to deal with that, and you should not be in this kind of environment. Because in my opinion, at the end of the day, her attitude and the way she gets super defensive over everything is only going to cause a bigger rift between the two of you in this relationship. An entitled Karen tries to force me to babysit her child despite having never met her or her child ever in my life. And when I said no, this lady freaked out on me. Here's what happened. So I was on a client's boat to take measurements for a job that they'd like me to do. The place they're docked is along a lovely sidewalk that is open to the public. I was on the front deck when I heard a family walk by. I was aware of them, but I didn't look up. That is, until I heard a shrill voice call for me. Excuse me. It spooked me as they were so close. So I looked up and there was a mother and a child standing on the sidewalk in front of the boat. I looked at them and said, sorry, you snuck up on me. Can I help you? Sometimes people stop to ask me for directions to a bathroom or they're just curious about what I'm doing. So randomly striking up a conversation isn't super uncommon. I'm happy to help or even just to have a bit of conversation. This entitled Karen looks me square in the eye and says, hey, can you watch my kid for a minute? No explanation, no greeting, nothing. I was stunned into silence for a second while my brain tried to process what she just said. The mother then interjected before I even had a chance to try and make a response. She said, it's okay, she can just hang out on your boat with you. And again, completely flabbergasted. She can do what? Her child looked to be kindergarten age, maybe even younger. Before she could start walking toward the pier, I finally snapped out of it and gained enough brain power to speak up. I said to her, sorry, no, this isn't my boat. Then she says, oh, well, whose boat is this? And as I was explaining that this is my client's boat, she then demands that whoever it is that owns this boat needs to come out right now so she can talk to him. I then had to raise my voice just a little bit and say, ma'am, I'm working. And I said this while holding up a bunch of measuring tools, just to try and prove that I wasn't lying. But this entitled Karen was not having it. She then tried to excuse it by saying that it would just be a minute. And at this point, I was appalled. I told her again, sorry, no, I cannot do that. I was about to say more, but she interrupted me again before I could continue. Well, can you get off the boat and just watch her here then? Again, completely shocked and absolutely stunned. I am working, I said a bit slower. I'm sure my boss wouldn't appreciate me watching some stranger's kids while I'm on the clock. Again, I was about to say more, but her child was whining and pulling violently on her mother's hand. And that finally snapped this entitled Karen out of her stupor. She just said, "Fine," snapping suddenly and dragging her child away up the steps. I'm not gonna lie, it was a really odd and unnerving situation, and my heart was beating really fast afterwards. I am in complete shock. Boats and docks are not a safe place for children, especially without a life jacket, and a strange child at that. I don't know if they can swim or what their history is of water, and what about their behavior? Will they listen to any of my instructions or directions? Why would you give your child to a complete stranger working in a place that is not safe or suitable for kids? And while someone's working, next time I'm gonna see if the owner of the boat can reverse their boat into the dock so that I won't have to face the general public and possibly be volunteered as somebody's babysitter ever again. This is crazy to me. This entitled Karen was ready to have some stranger babysit their child. I mean, how bad of a parent do you have to be to insinuate that anything like that would be okay for your kid? And this guy had it right. This kid could have seriously gotten hurt or worse. And the last thing you need is for you to be liable for that, all because you said yes to some weird entitled Karen. So good for the original poster for denying this entitled Karen right from the get-go, because otherwise this really could have been bad. My best friend is in love with me, and I don't know how to deal with this situation. I've known my friend John since we were kids, all the way back until kindergarten. We weren't always close, but through the years, he has become someone I love and care for deeply. He is just one of the best people I've ever had the chance to meet, and I value his friendship. The first time he confessed that he liked me was in senior year in high school, which was about 5 years ago. I was messed up, and I was pining for someone else at the time, and he knew this, and I felt so bad that I couldn't reciprocate how he felt. I even cried over the situation at the time. He just hugged me and said it wasn't a big deal, and that he knew I didn't like him that way, but that he just wanted me to know. After that, we went to different colleges, but still talked and would meet up from time to time, sometimes alone, sometimes with our friends. I heard he had crushes in college, and even got himself some girlfriends through the years, and I was happy for him. I was happy that he moved on and that I had my friends back. The second time he confessed was 2 years ago. I was moving on from a previous relationship, which was my first one, so he again told me that he loved me, and that he just wanted me to know and didn't expect me to like him back. We still talked and went out, and he said he liked hanging out with me, and that he didn't need space as he knew my position, and I believed him. Again, I heard through mutual friends that he went out with other girls, so I assumed it was just a passing thing. Then, last year, he decided to hit the gym. He started a new diet, got a job, and just overall improved himself. He told me he decided he was going to challenge himself and go after the things he wanted. I was happy for him and really proud. That is until I realized that I was a part of this challenge. He started courting me, like properly. He said that he wasn't, and that he was only being a good best friend, but he started buying me flowers just because he wanted to, and asked me to hang out alone on a weekly basis. I couldn't text him things like what I was craving at the time food-wise, because he would actually get me whatever I was talking about, and he would personally deliver it to me despite the fact that I live nowhere near him. I couldn't call him my bestie, or send him memes that said friend in it without him pouting. And again, just like before, he confessed how he feels, but this time he said that he loves me. He said it's been years, and even his past girlfriends and other situations never made him feel like he does when he's around me. I told him again that I didn't like him that way, and that maybe we should distance ourselves for a while, as I wasn't comfortable anymore. I wanted a friend and not a suitor. Thankfully, he agreed. We didn't talk for about 6 months, and he actually blocked me on everything for a while. I missed him, but I also knew it was the right thing. We got to talk about a month ago, and he basically said that all these months with no contact were for nothing, and that he still felt the same way about me, which is just honestly baffling to me. He also said that because the no contact didn't really work, that there's no reason for us to keep talking to each other and hanging out like we used to. He swears up and down that he really doesn't care if I don't like him that way, that he's absolutely fine and at peace with it, but he just can't help himself to treat me special in the way that he does because he wants me to make me happy and to spoil me, and that I should just let him do it because I can't change the way he feels, so I shouldn't want to change the way he acts. But I'm not comfortable with this, and I don't think it's healthy. I feel like I need to censor myself in the way I talk and treat him because I don't want to give him false hope. Several times in the past, I've tried to see him that way, and he is a really good person and a good catch, and anyone would be lucky to have him, and he definitely knows how to charm a girl, but I just don't feel that way. He's like family to me, not a boyfriend. Part of me believes that he doesn't actually care, and that I should just enjoy enjoy my time with him, because if 6 months of no contact doesn't help the situation, then nothing is going to. But on the other side of this, I am terrified of hurting him, and I already know that I'm hurting him by not reciprocating how he feels. But if he can't change the way he feels, then neither can I. My question basically is there anything that I can do to save the friendship? I honestly don't want to lose him, but I'm not sure what to do. The way your supposed friend is acting is really creepy in my opinion. He is obviously not respecting your boundaries of you saying, hey, I don't like you like that. He's clearly madly in love with you, and he wants to try and take this relationship further. In fact, he proved this by trying to make you a part of his weird challenge to improve himself. Like, sure, improve your body, your health, your job, whatever, but don't drag someone else into that as if there's some kind of prize to be won. That's really disrespectful in my opinion. This will never be any kind of true friendship. It's very much going to be one-sided, and he's obviously in love with you and you just don't feel the same way about it. And no matter how hard you try and explain it to him, it doesn't sound like he wants to change. So in my opinion, I think it's time for you two to part ways. There's no point in trying to keep him around as a friend if he's going to be disrespectful to your boundaries and completely ignore your wishes. And your wishes are simply that you don't like him like that, and that you don't want to be spoiled or treated differently, but that you just want to be a friend. And he does not want that. So in my opinion, that's your answer for this situation. Because otherwise, this behavior is only going to continue, as it looks like this guy simply does not get the message. Am I allowed to feel emotionally cheated on after what my boyfriend did? My boyfriend of almost 5 years and I have been through a lot of rough patches, and we promised each other to work on ourselves by going to therapy to make our relationship healthier and lasting. Recently, my boyfriend started going into the office to work and met a girl from a different department who actually recruited him into the company. When he told me this, I was so happy and encouraged them to be friends and to let me know all about her role since I'm in the same industry as her. Ever since then, my boyfriend has come home late without notice from being out drinking with coworkers, including her. He also mentioned that they're close friends, even though they've only known each other for 3 days, and looked her up on the company directory to find her socials and to follow her on Instagram. The first night he was home late, I expressed my concern for his safety as our city is getting more unsafe each day downtown, and he apologized for not letting me know where he was and when he'd come home, which is no big issue for me. But the next day he did the same thing and was out until 1 in the morning without notice. He even turned off his phone and tried to claim that it shut off so I wouldn't be able to reach him. Being a person with anxiety, I spiraled into a panic attack, thinking about the worst case scenario about his safety. Eventually, he did finally respond to my call while he was drunk and slurring his words that he took an Uber to a different town to continue hanging out with his 3 coworkers in this girl's building. In fact, he hid in the bathroom just to pick up his phone. My gut feeling instantly kicked in as I didn't trust what he was doing or saying. I asked for some proof to please show me that he was with more than just her, just to ease my anxiety. But when I asked this simple request, he refused. Later, when he came home, he refused to tell me about their relationship and went home after I broke up with him. The next day, I found out he called her immediately after breaking up with me, and he told her that she's a great thing that happened to him. I also found out he canceled his meetings to have lunch with her at the office, and when I requested to see this, at first he refused to show me, claiming that he had nothing to hide, even though that's exactly what he did. I feel betrayed, angry, heartbroken, and stupid for trusting him. I feel emotionally cheated on. For context, he's been cheated on twice in the past, so I didn't expect this from him. Am I the jerk for breaking things off and believing I was emotionally cheated on? He will admit to it and then take it back just to call me crazy. I also found out that he kept in touch as well as emailed back and forth with a former friend of his about getting back together while in a previous relationship, which makes me lose even more respect for him. I would also like to point out that I have no hard feelings towards his friend and coworker, and even reached out to her to let her know this, but I do have a problem with him. What should I do? This is a terrible situation because the boyfriend blatantly cheated on his girlfriend. There's no ambiguity here. He was straight up cheating. He would even admit it and then take it back just to call her crazy. These are all manipulation tactics if you ask me. He is the jerk in this situation. He was unfaithful, and if he could have gotten away with it, you better believe he would have hidden this from you. So I honestly don't blame you for preemptively breaking up with him, and you are truly going to be so much better without him. You are quite literally dropping the garbage off at the corner, and you can move on with confidence and happiness. Imagine staying with someone like that while they're cheating on you. Like you completely made the right choice in this situation. So give it a few weeks or even a few months, and eventually I think you'll be able to see that it really is for the best that you get away from this dirtbag, because you deserve so much better than this. I saw something very sketchy on my girlfriend's phone, and now I'm not sure how to feel about it. My girlfriend and I have been seeing each other for about about 8 months. I was about a year out of a 10-year relationship when we met, and she had been single for 6 years. So we both have been playing the Tinder game, and we've both spent a lot of quality time with a bunch of other people before we met, which I understand and I'm not mad about. But we had a bit of an argument a few months ago about one of the people that I had spent some quality time with and how they were asking to hang out or go to lunch or just to walk her dog. My girlfriend wasn't comfortable with that, so I deleted that person's contacts and I haven't spoken to her since. This will be important later. So I was lying in bed this morning while my girlfriend was letting the dog out, and for some reason I had the urge to check her phone. Now, I have never done that before, and I had trusted her completely until that point. I go to her Snapchat and the very first message is from a guy. I can't see his message, but her reply from yesterday basically says that she's still at work. And at this point, I'm just curious as to what's going on. So I scroll up and I see saved messages from January, which is a week before we met. And these messages are very explicit. But personally, I'm not mad about that, as I know it was before we met. But I just feel that after she blew up at me for talking to the girl I used to spend some time with, and after I respected her feelings and deleted that person forever and cut off all communication, I now feel very hurt and I feel like I've been lied to. She's told me before about getting messages from guys she used to see about getting together, but she tells them that she has a boyfriend now. But she's never mentioned getting messages off of this guy before. This is completely new territory for me. I do love her and I trust her, and I don't think she spent any quality time with anybody ever since we've gotten together. But seeing that on Snapchat has put doubt in my mind. I don't want to end things. And she's explained over and over that they were friends for 6 years before they ever spent quality time together. When I asked what the difference was between her situation and mine, she basically said it's because I met this girl off of an app, whereas the person that she was talking to was already a friend that she had known. And it's someone that she's known for quite a long time in her life. I do trust her and I love her, but I can't help but feeling really hurt right now. What should I do? It sounds like your girlfriend's trying to have some kind of weird double standard. If you can't talk to any other person from your past, then honestly, I don't think she should be allowed to either. It sounds like this is some kind of weird friends with benefit thing that she's clearly been hiding from you, and it's only just now coming to light, which in my opinion is a deal breaker, because that shows that she is not loyal to you at all, and this is not someone that you would want to spend the rest of your life with. I would not be able to trust anybody who would do that to me. So for me personally, there's no way I would let this relationship continue. And the worst part about it is, she probably knows that this is absolutely a double standard, because she's obviously being a hypocrite at this point. So I think you need to have a very serious conversation with her about where you see this relationship going, because otherwise this is just going to cause a bigger rift between the two of you. And if that's the case, I really don't see this relationship working out. My older brother sees us as rivals, but I simply don't see it that way, and now I don't know what to do. My relationship with my older brother feels less friendly and supportive than it used to. Our dynamic now is like a competitive sibling rivalry that I never even wanted. We've got each other's back at the end of the day, but I've always been closer to my younger brother, who is good-humored and less of a dominant personality. For most of our lives, we had the same level of education and job status. Things got weird when I cashed in my GI Bill education benefits to go to grad school. When I invited my brothers to graduation, my little brother was happy and excited for the ceremony, but I was surprised and disappointed when my big brother said he wasn't interested in coming. Basically, I had to beg him just to convince him to attend. He literally said the only ceremony worth attending is a Navy SEAL graduation, which, sorry bro, but I'm not a Navy SEAL. Keep in mind, I attended his last graduation ceremony. Afterward, I studied for an important exam, and I needed to pass this to get a job. At the time, I left a job to solely focus on studying. My big brother nagged me for not working while I studied and called me a bum. Ultimately, I passed the exam and got a job that is considered higher status than his own. He's been somewhat weird about the new career, but nothing I can really disarm. My big brother also acted weird when I got a car that's newer and nicer than his. He's more disagreeable too now, and goes out of his way to highlight areas of his life that are more ideal than mine. Based on the timing of his behavior, it seems my success is making my big brother feel less important, or overall just inadequate. As a result, he treats me with less warmth and encouragement than I enjoyed in the past. To me, competitive people are typically insecure. They don't feel good enough, which manifests itself in the competitive persona. It's really just upsetting that he can't just be happy for me, which my little brother does instinctively. How do I undo this unwanted rivalry and return to our old friendly brotherhood? What's the best way to convey that I've noticed this to my big brother and that I want him to make some kind of improvement? What should I do? The first thing I realized when reading through this is that you can't undo what's in other people's heads, because I think you have it right. People who act ultra competitive, well beyond what's appropriate, typically are very insecure people. I mean, think about it for a second. You have a better job than him now. You have a better car. You made the right decisions with studying instead of working. All of this just so you could pass that exam. And he took shots at you all along the way. He made it a point to try and put you down and make you feel like you're less than him, which is a really toxic thing to do no matter who you are. But it especially stings when it comes from someone who you love, especially from a brother. So unfortunately, I don't think there's anything you can do to force him to change his mind. I think if anything, you could talk to him and explain to him in a very neutral and calm voice that you feel like your relationship with him is straining and that you two are drifting apart. I think that's a fair thing to discuss with your sibling, especially if you want to try and keep the peace over the years. I've personally always adopted the attitude that other people's success is not my failure. So if someone gets a better job than me, that doesn't mean that I failed. It sounds like your brother's really comparing himself to you, so his way of kind of evening the playing field is by putting you down and making these snide remarks. So I think if anything, I would just control how you react to those situations and just not let him get to you. But hopefully he's at least willing to hear you out and see that this is really becoming a problem, because this is your brother after all. And obviously you want to have some kind of long-lasting relationship with someone you know you should be able to trust. My parents want to give me and my husband their home, but my husband refuses and gets upset when I bring up the idea. And at this point, I don't know what to do. My husband and I have been married for 8 years and have a little one and a home together. We both want a bigger house and have been looking for one for quite a while. In the meantime, my parents have offered to downsize and trade homes with us. Their home, which is my childhood home, is much bigger than ours. It's also on the water and has a decent school district, and it's worth about double our home. My husband, though, refuses to remotely even consider this option. The reason he cites as to why my parents' house is unacceptable is because it's my home and will never be our home. My parents have offered to allow us to indicate any changes we want done, and they will pay for the renovations so it can be ready for us to simply move into. The house we live in, I bought before we were married and have paid off on my own. And to be honest, I'm very proud of this. I'm a school teacher who also runs kid camps during the summer. My husband works at a packaging company, and he makes about half of what I make from my two jobs together. So here's where the main issue comes into play. Since my parents' house is off the table, we will now have to find and buy another house out of pocket. The housing market here has gone up a lot, and interest rates have gone up a lot too. So instead of being debt-free, we get to needlessly take on a new mortgage. I enjoy my summer job, but at the same time, as our kiddos get older, I might not want to work as much as I used to. Having a new mortgage puts me in a position where I feel that I will have to work a lot. If I bring up any of this to my husband, he completely shuts down and gets very frustrated with me. He always cites money doesn't mean anything to him, and having a family home is number one. I am so frustrated with this because I feel like I am the only realistic one in this family. I understand where he is coming from, but sometimes we have to do things we don't like in order to do what is best. And then I get stuck in my own logic, thinking that maybe he is right, and I need to do what is best by finding our own home and not my childhood home. What do I do? Do I press the issue for taking my parents' house, which he will never agree to, and if he does accept the house, he will just resent the house and me as a result? Or do I just go with getting a new house and dealing with the debt that will come along with it? I am trying not to be down on this, but I am stuck seeing things in my light. This is all very frustrating, and I honestly don't know what to do. In my opinion, based on what you've described, your husband is being very selfish. I don't know what he's talking about when he says that this wouldn't be our home. Like, of course it would be your home. Who cares if your wife grew up in it? You have a free home on your hands. There would literally be no debt associated with it, and you could make that house your own. You could do whatever you want with it. You could tear down the walls and paint the entire thing neon green if you wanted to. Like, who cares? This guy would rather take on hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, all because he's too prideful to take another person's home. Like, his logic literally does not make any sense to me. So in my opinion, this original poster is 100% in the right. Like, it only makes sense with the budget and the finances that they have to quite literally switch homes with her parents. Like, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'll take your apartment and you take my house. By the way, we'll renovate it for you. I would jump at that tomorrow. There's no way I would say no to that, especially with all of the perks that are being described by this original poster. This is an easy decision, and there's no reason why you can't just take this house and then use it as leverage to sell it and buy another house. Like, why wouldn't your husband see this as a stepping stone to getting a house that he could call his own? This could be so beneficial to both of your portfolios. So hopefully this situation works out, because there's no good reason, in my opinion, to not take this deal, as it literally is only going to benefit him and his family. My entitled mother steals my Make-A-Wish moment by forcing me to do what she wants instead of what I want. And to this day, I'm still upset with her about what she did. Here's what happened. So today, I am 13 years in remission from cancer. I had a very aggressive type with less than 20% chance of survival for the first 5 years. As I was 16, I qualified for Make-A-Wish. I'd played around with a bunch of potential ideas, as well as some destination vacations, meeting my favorite band, getting electronics, all kinds of things were on the table. Once the idea of traveling somewhere warm came up, my entitled mother was convinced that was what was going to happen for my wish. The discussion of Barbados came up, so that's what she set her mind to. However, I was still on the fence, and after discussing it with my correspondent at Make-A-Wish, I wanted to meet my favorite band instead of going to Barbados. We would not have been able to go to the Caribbean for the trip simply because of the costs, but we still could have gone somewhere warm and out of the country. For context, we live in northern Canada, and the winter times are still very, very cold. There was talks of Florida, California, or even Hawaii as a destination to meet them at. I even wrote a letter directly to this band, explaining how listening to them helped me through my treatments, explaining how one song in particular was really special to me, and my correspondent had mailed it out to the managers, and they were going to begin preparations for the band to get time scheduled for the wish. When I told my mom what I wanted and the plans to meet the band, she went nuts. She went off about how she deserved this trip as much as I do because she was there for me the entire time, and that if I wanted to do anything besides going to Barbados, I could find another adult to supervise the trip because neither her nor my stepdad would be joining me, all because it wasn't what she wanted. She then told me to pack my bags and that I would be staying at my dad's place until I came to my senses, and told my Make-A-Wish correspondent that we were going to Barbados. So as a result, I spent over a month at my dad's house. Meanwhile, the correspondent was trying to convince me to go through with what I really wanted, all during this time period when I'm forced to live with my dad. But as a teenager, I eventually caved, and I let my mom have what she wanted. Now, my parents did make a compromise with me at the time, and told me that they would drive me to their concert in Toronto if I had paid for the entire trip. And foolish 17-year-old me thought it was a great idea. I get to see the band in concert, and my parents get to be happy in the end with their trip. When it came time to see this band in concert, it cost a lot of money. My parents complained the entire time, but you know what? At least I got to see them in concert. On the occasional time where the conversation of the trip to Barbados comes up, my mom likes to paint herself as the victim after all these years. She would say stuff like, "Could you imagine if you'd gone through with it and we'd missed out on going to Barbados? You would have gone with somebody else and left us behind. I would have never forgiven you if you'd done that." To this day, I am still a huge fan of that band. They were on a hiatus for a while, but came back, and this whole situation really stuck in my mind, especially when I see them performing on shows and their 2 tours they've done post-hiatus. Yes, I saw them in concert, and it was a great time, but I could have physically met them and gone to the concert through Make-A-Wish while traveling to another country, all without having to pay out of pocket for the experience. And this is all because my mom felt entitled to making my wish about her, rather than the actual recipient of it. I understand that she didn't care to meet the band herself, but there could have been many opportunities available aside from just doing that. I nearly didn't make it during treatments. It should have never been a question of whether or not we're going to do what I want for my wish, especially with the extremely high chance that my cancer could come back. The mom in this story is unbelievably toxic and just cruel. The future of their child is literally on the line, and she can only think about going to Barbados for some kind of vacation. And this is all in spite of their kid. I mean, how could you do that to somebody? I'm actually baffled by this story. The fact that she hijacked your Make-A-Wish situation is all the evidence you would ever need to know that this lady is a terrible person. She prioritized her own happiness and what she wanted over what her kid absolutely deserved. The original poster's days were numbered. They very easily could have passed away from this, but the mom was only thinking about herself. Absolutely disgusting. I truly hope that the original poster has distanced themselves from this mom, because she's absolutely crazy, and there's no way I would ever want anyone like that in my life ever again, especially if they hijacked my Make-A-Wish moment. Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you have gone through with your plans to see your favorite band and get to meet them in person? Or would you have given in to your mom's weird demands to go to Barbados? Let us know down below. An entitled customer demands that we break the law just just for him, even though my supervisor stepped in and told him no. A few years ago, I was working a late shift at another store. I was supposed to leave at 9, but was asked if I could manage to stay till 10. I wasn't happy about the last minute change, but I lived really close by, so it was no skin off my nose. I just texted my sibling that I was staying till 10, and that was that. Inside the store, it was pretty slow, and I was very tired. But we did have a few last minute stragglers around 9:30 coming in for some drinks or whatever. I was about to close my lane when my coworker who was closing asked me to hang on for just a minute while they ran to the bathroom, which is no problem. I took a few more quick beer runners in about 3 minutes and finished checking out the last guy just before the announcement played at 10 o'clock that no more beer could be sold for that night. I was again about to close my register when my coworker came back. I had shut my light off and was finishing my cleanup as the entitled customer of this story strolled right up to my register with a case of beer and a few other items. And once he showed up, I just knew it was going to be problems. I looked at the beer and I said to him, "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't sell you the beer." This guy looked up at me and he did not look happy. He said, "Why not?" I told him that it's 10 o'clock p.m. and I wasn't allowed to. Then he literally lifted up his wrist and pointed at his analog watch. And according to his watch, it's not quite 10 o'clock yet. I still repeated myself and said, "I'm sorry, but I legally cannot sell it to you. It's against the law and my system won't let me do it." The supervisor who was there for closing that night came up to help me at this point because they already knew I was supposed to be punching out by now. So the supervisor stepped in and said, "Sir, what's the problem?" The entitled customer started complaining. "I want my beer and they won't give it to me. My watch says it's 9:58, so give me my beer." Thankfully, my supervisor had a backbone because they said, "Sorry, sir, it doesn't work that way. I'll be happy to check out the rest of your items, but we can't sell you beer at this time." The customer kept arguing with him for a bit, and by the time I was clocked out and heading out the door, he was already gone. I found out from the supervisor the next day that the entitled customer refused to buy anything from us, as he claimed that we were just a bunch of scam artists, and that he was going to take his business to the convenience store across the street. So in protest for being a few minutes too late to legally purchase alcohol, he went to that store that charged him way more than our store would have. Instead of dropping maybe less than $10 for a late night run, he spent at least $20. But at the end of the day, I guess you really can't fix stupid. But hopefully he'll be able to fix the time on his discount watch he probably got from the dollar store. So I looked into this, and apparently according to the original poster, they didn't do this for some kind of power trip. They weren't just being stubborn or weird or anything. In their system itself, a notification will pop up rejecting the sale if you're trying to sell alcohol past 10 o'clock. They literally would not have been able to even sell it to him if they wanted to. And apparently it's the law. You can't sell alcohol past 10 where they live. And if the original poster and the supervisor did break this law, they would be in a lot of trouble. So I don't blame them for saying, you know what, it's not worth risking it. Sure, they probably could have taken a cash payment of some kind, but then when that gets accounted for during some kind of audit or some kind of accounting system, you're gonna be in deep trouble. And that's not gonna be good for you or anybody else's job. I'm a firm believer that, you know what, the customer is not right sometimes. Sometimes they're just blatantly wrong. And after spending most of my life in customer service, I would say that very rarely is the customer right. Most times they're just a bunch of idiots. And the entitled customer in this story definitely fits the bill. I have just cheated on my girlfriend and I'm not sure what to do now. I'm a 23-year-old male and my girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years, and we met each other through her best friend. I met my girlfriend through a mutual friend who I play in a band with. It's complicated because at the time I had a crush on her, and I didn't get with my now girlfriend initially for the right reasons. At the time, it was more to make my crush jealous, but eventually I grew out of that and we actually built a really good relationship. A couple of years ago, I got a really nice house and we live together now, and I've been thinking about having kids and raising a family. The problem is my relationship with her friend has grown closer over time, and I've realized I never really stopped wanting to be with her. I love my girlfriend, but I am very torn. My girlfriend went to Australia last Friday to go and see her parents, and she won't be back for another week. Meanwhile, me and her friend were playing, and she said that she felt tired after the show. She lives a lot further away from the venue than I do, so I told her she could come and stay over at my place for the night. Anyway, as one can imagine, we kissed, and then one thing led to another. I won't pretend I didn't have the possibility in mind when I invited her over, and I think she had the same intention too. And with that, we spent some quality time together, and yes, it was a mistake. We both decided in the morning after we shouldn't have done that and agreed we won't ever do that again. I shouldn't have betrayed my girlfriend, especially when when we're planning for kids. And trust me, I feel sick about that. I have mixed emotions right now because I love my girlfriend, but I can't pretend I don't love her friend as well. After all, we were close friends even way before I met my girlfriend. I don't know what to do exactly. I'm glad she agrees we shouldn't have done it, but I'm worried something like that could happen again. What should I do? The original poster in this story, in my opinion, is a massive jerk. You have essentially destroyed your relationship. All 5 of those years are now meaningless because you cheated on your girlfriend. And when she finds out, she's now not only going to have no boyfriend, but also her best friend is going to be gone as well. You have ruined her life in so many ways. She was planning on marrying you and having kids, but you've now just thrown that to the wayside. You basically said, nah, I don't know what I want. I'm torn between 2 different women. You don't actually care about your girlfriend in my opinion, but you instead betrayed her trust. And that's just not okay. She deserves way better than you. So when you ask the question, what should I do? You should be breaking up with your girlfriend and apologizing profusely. You need to explain to her exactly what happened in vivid detail, just so she can know not to go after someone like you ever again. Tell her what happened, break up with her, let her go through the grieving process, and allow her to move on from you. The original poster even went on to say that if they're brutally honest, they want to be with her friend, and that he would even break up with his girlfriend to be with her, which is just so toxic and disgusting. So hopefully you do the right thing. And honestly, I hope it was worth ruining your relationship because that's exactly what you just did. I ruined my wedding by uninviting my groomsmen, and now I'm not sure what to do. 2 weeks ago, I had my bachelor's party. I was very hesitant about having one in the first place, mainly because I don't like the connotation and expectations that surround this type of party. My best man and all my groomsmen knew this. We've known each other for a long time, ever since childhood, so we're all super close. Before I met my fiance, I was not a good person. I can readily admit that. I would manipulate and use women in all kinds of ways all the time, and I thought it was cool and fun. And this all stemmed from unresolved trauma from my childhood. But that's no good excuse. When I graduated from college, I started taking care of myself, physically, emotionally, and most importantly, mentally. I was able to afford therapy and really worked hard on myself to change and become a better man. My best man knew about this and has followed my journey and has been generally very supportive. He too has started to see how toxic our behavior was and is basically more or less on the same path to becoming a better person as I am. Our other friends are not so much on that path, but it's not something that affects our friendship, and they are much better with their behavior in comparison to when we were younger. I met my fiance shortly after the changes I made. My fiance really helped me heal from my trauma and has embraced me with all of my flaws. I feel so loved and cared for, and she's the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. Not to mention that her family has welcomed me since day one. I've even opened up to her about everything. She knows about my past, and she's well aware of my friend group and how they are. She ended up actually encouraging me to have a bachelor party. Also, I wouldn't miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime experience. So we went ahead and had the bachelor's party, but I told the boys ahead of time that I didn't want anything nefarious to be going on during this party, if you know what I mean. They agreed and understood where I was coming from, so we all went to a hotel with a casino and gambled for most of the afternoon. In the evening, we went back to our room and drank some more, and by the time it was 8 to 9 o'clock p.m., I was completely wasted. And this is where things took a turn for the worse. My groomsmen were talking to a group of girls when we were gambling in the afternoon who were also doing a bachelorette party. They invited them to our room and they showed up at 9 o'clock. So when they showed up, things got crazy. We all went to a club, at which point I pretty much blacked out. I remember telling my best man to take me back and that I didn't feel good about being this drunk at a club, but instead of helping me, he sort of just shrugged at me and laughed it off. Next thing I remember is coming in and out of consciousness while one of the bridesmaids is in our hotel room. I tried to push her away but kept blacking out. When I woke up the next morning, I was back in our hotel room. I thought I had a terrible nightmare, but I slowly started remembering everything. I began to have a panic attack. I woke everyone up and I tried to find out what happened. My groomsmen were being very dismissive and not taking it seriously, but I pressed until one of them admitted that they thought it would be funny to convince one of the bridesmaids to take me back to her room and give me one more night of fun before I became trapped in my marriage. And at this point, I completely lost it and I freaked out. I left without them and I've been staying with my cousin until I figure out what to do next. I called my fiance and I told her I need to postpone the wedding and that I need time to think. The boys and my fiance have been blowing up my phone at this point, and I've only been responding to my fiance and reassuring her that it's not her, it's something with me. I sent one text 1 week later to my boys' group chat telling them that that they are all uninvited. I obviously told my fiance about this, but didn't explain why. She, her family, and all the relatives of my friends have been calling me a complete jerk and blowing up my phone nonstop about the issue. The only people that know what happened are me, the boys, and my cousin. I don't have any other family, and my best man said he had no idea what they were up to and feels like garbage for not being there to stop it and protect me. I feel so lost. I haven't slept for days. I can't eat, I can't think, I can't even breathe. I can't even look my fiance in the face. I keep making excuses about why I'm staying with my cousin, with my only explanation being that I'm working through something. I feel sick every time I text her because I cheated, even though I didn't want it. It feels like I regressed with all of my history. I can't trust myself anymore, and I don't know how to explain this to my fiance. What should I do? First off, I don't think you're in the wrong here. You are clearly in a state of vulnerability, and your friends are absolute pieces of garbage. You said no. You said you did not want to be around this lady, but she kept pursuing you and did not let up. And that's not okay, nor is that your fault. You are in a vulnerable state, and it's just not fair. So I think you need to explain all of that to your fiance sooner than later. And as for uninviting all of your friends to the wedding, I don't blame you. They completely disregarded your boundaries and everything you said related towards your bachelor's party. You didn't want anything nefarious going on, if you know what I mean. And for something like that to be encouraged all because they think it's a joke is just not okay. And let me make it very clear, you did not cheat. You were instead absolutely assaulted. This is not your fault. You need to understand that. And I'm sure your fiance is going to see that as well. She deserves to know above anyone else why you want to postpone the wedding. And I can bet that she's going to be on your side when it comes to grieving this situation. I personally would not worry about what anyone else has to say because you know what? It's not their wedding. This is your wedding and you want to do this correctly. And you want the right people there to support you. And every single one of those groomsmen, in my opinion, have no place at your wedding. My boyfriend's best friend just told me that he has a crush on me, and now I don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for about a year. Last night we were all hanging out drinking. It was my boyfriend and I, as well as 5 or 6 of his friends. I get along great with my boyfriend's friends, and we probably hang out as a group once every other week, sometimes once a week altogether. Anyways, the friend in question is a super nice guy. We like the same music and have the same dark sense of humor. I consider him a friend, and that's it. At one point, after several drinks, he came up to me and asked to speak with me in private. He told me my boyfriend was a jerk and that I should dump him. I asked why he would say this about his friend, and he couldn't tell me why. My boyfriend had some quirks that aren't my favorite characteristics of him, but all things considered, they are very minor issues, and we've talked about it before. I can only assume this is what the friend was referring to. I very kindly brought the conversation to an end, and we went back to the group and hardly spoke the rest of the night. To be honest, I was a little hurt by this. Later that night, he texted me and said that he had a crush on me and told me to leave my boyfriend again. When he was sober, he said he was sorry and that he was just drunk and he didn't mean it. I didn't respond, and I'm feeling a lot of things right now. I'm angry at myself because I genuinely don't know if I did something to suggest I was into him. I don't know if I led him on somehow by accident or something like that. I am very much not interested in him, but do value our friendship. That is, up until now. I'm not sure how to go about this. Should I tell my boyfriend about what happened, as well as the text messages that I received? I don't want to turn them against each other, but I feel like it would be disloyal to my boyfriend to not tell him. What if he were to find out about this from somebody else? I don't want him to think that I'm hiding it from him. I'm worried how he will react as well. I've decided to go no contact with this individual and low contact in group settings with the friend for the time being. But if there are any better ways to tackle this, I am open to suggestions. What should I do? I gotta be honest, if I was in your situation, I would 100% tell your boyfriend about this. Think about it for a second. This guy is saying that you should break up with your boyfriend just so you can get with him. I don't care if he was drunk or not. That's so inappropriate. If I was your boyfriend, I would want to know if some guy was coming on to my girlfriend. It doesn't matter if there's going to be some kind of upheaval in the group. This needs to be known. Just ignoring it and saying, oh, maybe if I just put it off, this will probably solve itself, is legitimately only going to cause more problems. Your boyfriend deserves to know about his supposed friend trying to actively sabotage his relationship with you, because hiding that just to spare his feelings is only going to cause problems. Like, this guy is not your friend. He does not have your best interest in mind, nor does he have your boyfriend's best interest in mind. I mean, flip the script for a second. If some girl came up to your boyfriend and said that he should break up with you you just so he could get with her, don't you think you would be just a little bit upset about the situation? So personally, if I was in your situation, I would get everything together, I would take screenshots of that conversation, and I would be prepared to share this with my boyfriend, because he deserves to know, and he has every right to know, which one of his friends is actively trying to sabotage his relationship. Because honestly, anything less than telling him is going to cause some major problems later down the line. My crazy entitled parents demand that I trade houses with them because they were jealous that mine was better, but when I said no, they retaliated by breaking into my house and stealing my belongings. Things were so bad that I had to get the police involved just to confront them for what they did. Here's what happened. I'm gonna start this off by saying that if you have a house and don't have cameras installed, get cameras. I have some now and I wish I had some sooner. I live in a pretty typical manufactured home in Arizona. My parents also live in one just a few streets over. Despite how close we are, I'm very limited contact because they are just plain bad people. They treated me okay as a kid, but things changed as soon as I was in my late teens. I was expected to do more and pay my way as soon as I finished high school. That was fair, I was an adult by then after all, but my parents wanted a lot more in rent than I would have to pay if I got my own apartment. I would have basically had next to nothing left from my monthly paycheck if I had given them exactly what they wanted, which was just ridiculous. So I refused to give them more than a fair amount, plus a share in the utilities. And I started buying my own food as well. My father openly said that this was not good enough, and my parents actually filed official paperwork to evict me when I refused to cater to their demands. I left home and got an apartment with my best friend. 5 years later, I bought my own house in a neighborhood not far from my parents. It's just a manufactured home on a small property, but it was so cheap that I couldn't turn it down, and my monthly mortgage isn't bad either. I even moved my best friend in to help me cover the bills. We were already used to living in a small space as it is, and the house gave us much more room. I may even let another friend move in to get some more rent money for the mortgage, because we've only got one room that's actually left unused right now since the house is a 3-bedroom. My parents, though, somehow didn't like my independence from them. I mean, did they want me to fail or something? I honestly don't know, but the incident that caused the very limited contact was when they demanded that I traded houses with them. Yes, you read that correctly. They actually wanted me to trade houses. Their manufactured home is smaller and older than mine and has one less bedroom, and their yard is smaller too. Not that either of us have any grass. It is Arizona after all. When they first saw my place, they looked incredibly upset. After a couple more visits, my father actually said that it wasn't fair that I was doing better than him, and that according to him, I was rubbing my nicer house in their faces. My house is literally just an old manufactured home in one of the hottest states in the US. Like seriously, what's there to brag about? But I guess having something even slightly better than what my parents had irked them. And as I've already said, they actually demanded we traded houses because of it. My friend who lives with me literally fell onto the couch laughing when they said that, and I couldn't help but join in. But my father said it was not funny. He then demanded that he should get what he wants. When I recovered my composure, I said he and my mother were not entitled to my house or anything I owned for that matter. I then told them to get lost. After that, we barely spoke, and then the pandemic hit, which really didn't change my life much. I like the peace and quiet, and my friend knows to leave me alone most of the time. My father, however, got laid off, and he struggled to find another job. He ended up finding something local for half a year before getting a better paying job. He worked at a type of grocery store, and boy did I get a kick out of seeing him there when I was shopping for my groceries. But as much as I hate him, I'm not going to call him a bad employee. He actually did fine. But during that time, he and my mother kept calling me and asking for money. And I know what you're thinking, don't lend them anything. But they didn't want loans. They wanted handouts. Why, you may be asking? Because they raised me and I apparently owed them. I said if they didn't want the cost of raising a kid, they shouldn't have had one. A few weeks ago, my mother called me begging for money because their dinosaur of a window AC unit finally stopped working. I told them I was not giving them anything, and they were too cheap to replace the old AC unit for a long time. So I wasn't gonna buy them a new one. I refused. My mother then started complaining about how I had two in my house and that I could at least give them one. And long story short, I basically said, no, I'm not giving it to you, and you can go buy another one when you save money on the beer and cigarettes you keep buying. I thought that was the end of it, but no, it gets much worse. A few days later, I came home from work to find my house had been broken into. My front door locks were drilled out, and both my window AC units were gone. Nothing else was stolen, but they went out of their way to make a huge mess for some stupid reason, probably to make it look like a typical robbery or something like that. But after seeing what was missing, I knew knew it had to have been my parents. And so I did the only thing I could think of, and I called the police. I told the police that I heavily suspected my parents of the theft because they acted entitled to my stuff, even though I'm a fully grown man that doesn't live with them. I went with the police to my parents' house, and sure enough, they had both my AC units going in their windows. When confronting my parents, they obviously denied the theft. They claimed they already owned the AC units, but thankfully, statements from the neighbors said otherwise. But my parents still denied the theft. I'd bought both AC units used online years ago, which means I had no receipts for them, so I figured my only option was to look for witnesses in my own neighborhood. And as luck would have it, a neighbor across the street has security cameras, and the edge of one of them caught just enough to see my parents showing up in my father's truck. My father could be seen walking with a cordless power drill in hand, and a few minutes later, they came back to the truck with my AC units. Then they went back to ransack my place, I guess. With this evidence in hand, the police had cause to arrest my parents. At first, both of them acted like they'd done nothing wrong, but I convinced the police to let me do the talking. I said they could either return the AC units to my home and clean up the mess that they made, or I would let the police arrest them both right there. They'd already stolen to me, they lied to the police, they trespassed and vandalized my house, they broke my front door locks, and there was video evidence of what they'd done. If I pressed charges, they were both going to jail for sure. My parents looked deflated, then asked for a moment to talk with each other in their bedroom. I heard a lot of shouting from the both of them, and I could hear my mother yelling that my father was an idiot, which he is, by the way, and he was trying to blame me in turn. After about 5 minutes of that, they came back out looking even more deflated and said they'll return the AC units and stop bothering me for money if I didn't press charges. I said they were gonna clean up the mess in my house and buy new locks for my front door as well, and then I wanted written apologies from both of them on top of that. They begrudgingly agreed and even got a police escort back to my house. My father was forced to put the AC units back in my windows and then left my mother to clean up the huge mess they made while he went out to buy some replacement locks for my front door. He was gone about an hour and came back with a new stainless steel lock set to replace the knob and deadbolt. Then he had to help my mother finish cleaning. During this time, I let the two cops just sit and watch them while drinking soda. After everything was cleaned up, I gave my parents each a piece of paper and a pencil, then told them to write out apologies to me for what they'd done. My father looked especially upset and said I was treating him like a child. I said he was acting like one and never stopped treating me like a child either. This was just me holding him accountable, which of course he doesn't like. And I could have sent him to jail, but I felt like this was better for teaching him a lesson. He then kind of snorted and started writing. My mother wrote out a good apology, but my father's was pretty halfway done and passive aggressive, but I didn't care. It seemed to destroy him a little bit inside to have to do it. And when he was done, he left without speaking to me. My mother said she was sorry and that she'd leave me alone, then followed after him. The two cops said they thought the whole thing was hilarious and then thanked me for giving them an excuse to take a break while on the job before leaving. Not long after, I shelled out to get some cameras for the exterior of my house, so if someone tries to break in again, I'll get it on video this time. I only have 2 cameras, but added a couple more fake ones that look real enough just to scare people off. Thankfully, I haven't heard a peep from my parents, but their next door neighbor told me that they bought a new AC unit. I guess they had money for one after all. Makes me wonder how under the influence they truly were when they thought it was a good idea to steal from me. Maybe having lean pockets for a while would teach them, but then again, that's asking for quite a bit. The original poster is absolutely amazing. They handled this perfectly and definitely taught their parents a lesson. These entitled parents actually broke into his house, you know, the house that they were jealous of, drilled a hole through the locks, and stole 2 AC units as well as trashed the place. The criminal nature of that is just absolutely disgusting, but it looks like revenge really did come the original poster's way, as he taught his parents a lesson that no, you can't break into my house and you cannot get what you want. Otherwise, there's going to be consequences. I am upset that my boyfriend of 2.5 years never cooks, and I honestly don't know what to do. For background, my boyfriend and I just moved in together a little over a month ago, even though we've been together for the past 2.5 years. Since I was done with university a year early, I had lived on my own for the past year. He would come over every weekend and I would do the cooking. I had attempted to get him involved with baking, as well as cooking or grocery shopping, and he expressed every time how much he absolutely dreaded them. His attitude during grocery shopping was always negative. He was always bored or exhausted. There had been times where he would rage quit through the cooking process and would walk off just to watch a YouTube video instead of helping me finish the cooking. He has never wanted nor tried to learn how to cook anything other than chicken, rice, and steamed vegetables. I had to be the one to teach him many cooking cooking-related tasks, such as the different types of ways to cook eggs, simple recipes, how to make a Caesar salad, or anything like that. When he was living at home, his parents did let him fend for himself sometimes, but he always ended up cooking easy-to-go meals like pasta with sauce or frozen pizza. Because of this, we talked about splitting the cooking responsibilities 50-50 when we decide to move in together. He talked about how he would finally have the freedom and the drive to learn how to cook, and for the most part, I believed him. Fast forward to now, and we have started doing online pickup to save time as he hates grocery shopping just about as much as he hates cooking. The kitchen we have is twice the size of my old apartment, so there is a lot of room for creativity, which is what I have been doing. In fact, I have been the one to orchestrate grocery shopping and 85% of the cooking since we moved in together. The other night, I finally let it out and was extremely upset. We discussed last week that this specific week would be 100% his cooking week, and I would do all the dishes. He had all of the recipes 3 days in advance because I sent them to him. Both recipes are chicken recipes that he decided on. However, come the first night, the entire situation fell flat, and he was just one big ball of negativity. For 1.5 hours of making chicken parmesan, he just kept cursing and repeatedly saying how much he hated this on repeat. I ended up serving myself at 8 o'clock at night and making my own salad, which by the way only took about 3 steps. This was because after I pulled the chicken out of the oven, he rage quit and took a 20-minute shower while the chicken was getting cold. After we finished eating, we had an argument. I explained that I was upset because I had been cooking for both of us for the past 3 weeks and I couldn't go one night without having to step in to help. As a side note, this was also after I had washed all the dishes. He told me that I couldn't claim the last 3 weeks because a lot of the food that I heated up for dinner was frozen or thawing out, even though I explained to him that it was easy because I spent hours on the weekend prior making the food. He said heating up a frozen pizza was the equivalent of heating up pulled pork. He explained to me that he would be fine cooking frozen pizzas or ramen every time he needed to cook, but I tried to tell him that that isn't healthy at all. I told him that I understand that as an easy meal every now and then, but I shouldn't be the one to cook all the big balance meals while he got the pizzas and ramen. I'm really stumped on what to do. He told me multiple times how much he despises cooking, and I have told him multiple times how unhappy I am feeding the both of us all the time. He now wants to learn how to make my slow cooker pulled pork and chili. Is this a first step in the right direction? Or is this just an easy way out? Because maybe pulled pork and chili would feed 2 people for about 9 days, but what about the other days of the month? Should I just let him start slow like this, even though I'll still be taking care of most of the complex meals for most of the month? I need suggestions because it's honestly mentally and physically exhausting, and I honestly don't know what to do. I mean, a slow cooker really is a step in the right direction because those things are super easy. You quite literally just throw it in and it pretty much does the job for you. So if anything, maybe get him a bunch of recipes that he might like and teach him how to use the slow cooker as a way for him to start cooking. At the end of the day though, I don't think you can make him like cooking. It sounds like he really just likes the cheap, easy frozen stuff that you can just heat up and eat really quick, which for some people that's probably enough. But this is a genuine concern of yours, and it's really disappointing to see that he's not taking this seriously. So hopefully having a slow cooker could put him in the right direction. And with enough recipes, maybe you can diversify this enough where it's not only something that can be filling and good, but also something that's healthy. Because otherwise, eating pizza and ramen every single night is going to get old really fast and probably cause some serious health problems later down the line. My boyfriend takes his stress out on me, and I'm not sure how to deal with this or what to do. We have been struggling recently after over 5 years of being together. Our conversations can sometimes be tense and borderline argumentative. I often feel like I am treading on eggshells, trying to avoid a bad reaction from him. Very often, he makes fun of what I say, repeating back what I said in a whining baby voice. We had a big talk recently about some money issues that he has caused, resulting in problems of us being able to buy a house together. He hid all of these financial issues from me, and he did this for about a year, and this greatly upsets me. I also mentioned these other behaviors, letting him know that it makes me feel like he doesn't even like me. I said that I cannot live with this for the rest of my life if this is how he's going to act. He said that the whining imitations of me was to try and let me know what I sounded like, saying that he doesn't like it when I whine. He also said he was upset with me because I hardly initiate with him, which makes him feel unwanted. I agree that I could do better in that department, but I also feel that it is hard to initiate with someone who acts like they don't like you. We have now come to a money agreement, but he said that his behavioral issues are due to stress and that he'll try and improve them. He doesn't hate me, and he feels awful for the way he talks to me. One big problem is that he lost his dad very unexpectedly suddenly and traumatically earlier this year. This has left him with a great deal of stress, as he has no others in his family that can take control of the estate issues. While I sympathize with his situation, I explained to him that stress was no excuse to be disrespectful to each other. I also lost my father almost 2 years ago now, and I am still very much grieving terribly. He was there for me then and was a great support, and I want to continue to do the same for him now. But I also said that we are going to encounter many stressful situations in our lives together, and we need to be on each other's side when this happens. The next few weeks after this big talk went pretty well. I felt much happier, and I felt as if he was happier too. But now it's starting to slip. This past weekend, all my fears were reawakened. I felt as if he was relentlessly imitating me in a whining voice, even though I have tried my best not to do anything that will cause him to do this. Every conversation we had felt really tense. I did not feel like being physical with him all weekend because of this. I now feel very worried about moving in with him, as well as even buying a house together when I feel this way. I feel like he's the only one that is truly there for me in my life, and without his support, I feel very alone in the world. I love him very much, and I am scared I am losing him. I don't know whether to call out his behaviors or to just wait it out until things settle down, or should I maybe make a better effort on my side to comfort him and to initiate with him. He's hurting a lot, and perhaps that is what I should focus on. I am just so sick of putting up with all these behaviors for the past 4 months. What should I do? I would be very annoyed with this type of behavior as well. And you're right, I understand that he's grieving, but the way he's acting is inappropriate. And honestly, I would not move in with him until this is addressed. It also sounds like a lot of his behavior is incredibly abusive. You walk on eggshells and you try to avoid conversations, all to avoid the negative reaction that you know you're going to get out of him. That's really not healthy in my opinion. And he hid the fact that he was messing around with your finances and ruining your chances at buying a house, which probably is the universe saying, hey, whoa, wait a second, you do not want to move in with this guy just yet. From my perspective, he sounds like a basket case, and these behavioral issues are definitely something that he needs to work out. Otherwise, I can see this relationship falling apart, and from the sounds of it, it's definitely going to be his fault. My sister is giving me the silent treatment, and I don't know what to do about this or how to handle it. So my sister is giving me wild silent treatment right now. Her husband invited my family over for a barbecue last weekend, and she straight up avoided me and ignored me and my family the entire time. Her husband, her mother-in-law, and her kids and I all had positive interactions, but I have no idea what's going on. I used to live with her, and before I had my daughter, we were very close. Like, I saw her twice a week, but now she can't even greet me. She can't even look me in the eye or even have a conversation. Everything's just become so weird all of a sudden. After the party, I texted her about it and reflected back, and I realized she has been avoiding my calls and canceling plans for a couple of months now. We live 20 minutes apart, but I just kind of assumed that she was probably busy or something along those lines. But that's when I realized, no, that's not the case. The problem is me. She wants to avoid me. The thing about it that's the most infuriating is her husband has no idea. My parents also have no idea this is going on. Our mutual friends are even left in the dark on how things are happening. She talks to them about me like everything is fine. On group texts, she's always first to respond and tells people she will call them later. Like I said, I texted last week asking if there's a reason she's avoiding me and asking to connect and catch up in some way. But of course, I got no response from her. But our stepmom messages today on our group text, and my sister has a really sweet message for her and says that she will chat with her later. It feels like she is rubbing it in my face that she is doing just fine, basically verifying that yeah, she's giving me the silent treatment. It's pretty petty and it's making me resent her like crazy, but I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to call my stepmom and ask for advice, just so I don't feel so alone in this. My sister has also done this to our stepmom and my biological mom. She gets super hot and cold while putting on this I'm doing amazing front, and I feel annoyed she is getting away with it this time at my expense. Like, I'm giving her space, but do I straight up call her out and say to her, look, I know you are straight up giving me the silent treatment. Should I involve other people and ask them if they know why she's ignoring me? I don't really know what to do or what I'm looking for. It's just all very frustrating and I'm kind of at a loss. I hate it when people give me the silent treatment. Nothing drives me more crazy than someone doing that. And it sounds like your sister does this anytime she doesn't get her way. She did this to your biological mom. She did this to your stepmom. This is her way of getting back at someone else. And it's just toxic. It's so uncalled for. And if anything, it's a reflection of how terrible she's acting and her own insecurities. But I do think there is a solid way of fighting the silent treatment, and that is to just completely ignore any of these petty already attempts. Typically for silent treatment, in my opinion, it's used to get you to beg her to talk to you, just so she can ignore you as punishment. That's really what she's looking for in this situation, in my opinion. And if you don't give it to her, then guess what? That's her problem. If you just go about your life as if nothing's changed, that basically will then leave the ball in her court and basically place all the blame on her. So in my opinion, I don't think you should reach back out. I think you've already tried to reach out once. That was like, what, a week ago? And she has made the choice to ignore you, despite the fact that she is not busy and she's responding to group text messages. So I would not entertain begging for her attention, and I would instead just move on and go about your life like normal, because she's just being toxic and she just wants attention. And you don't have to participate in this type of toxic game. My crazy entitled father tries to rent out my apartment that he does not own to 3 random strangers. Things got so bad that they even showed up to my apartment demanding my keys because they were moving in. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and my parents are so crazy, to the point where me as well as a majority of my family have cut them off. For me personally, I've cut off my dad completely and my mom calls on occasion. My mom is also constantly trying to overstep her boundaries, such as inviting him to family events that he's specifically not invited to. And she purposefully does these things, knowing they'll cause an argument, and she gets joy out of it. They're that kind of people. So needless to say, any sane person could agree that they would not want this kind of problem in their life. My dad is delusional and narcissistic, and this is so bad that he thinks he's famous and claims that everybody runs up to him for pictures, telling him how famous he is, while also spouting off that somebody's gonna make a movie about him. And obviously, as I'm sure you're able to guess, he is delusional and all of this is a lie, because no one has ever seen this and it's kind of a running joke. People will actively laugh at him, but in his mind, he thinks that they're laughing with him and not at him. He has lost all of his friends due to his poor behavior, such as arguments, belittling, and non-stop phone calls. So hopefully you understand and have a better picture of who it is that I have to deal with probably for the rest of my life. But back to the story, I have my own apartment, and I chose not to give my address to them because we aren't on speaking terms, and he made some threatening remarks towards me because I wouldn't give him my personal information. Also, he could try and take out loans in my name. Like, that's an obvious no. Also, it's important to note that I did not grow up with him, so while he is technically my dad, I also barely know him. So this is where things get really crazy, because he apparently told people that he has an apartment, and the apartment he's referring to is mine, and he likes to brag, stating that he lets his daughter live in this apartment. He likes to pretend that he's a big shot, so he then told some people who needed a place to live that they could stay at his spare apartment. So he got my address from a family member just so he could further spread this lie. I assume my mom gave out the address due to the fact that no one I know speaks to him. Well, one day I get a call from my apartment building manager saying that there's some people at the gate claiming that they're here to move into my unit, and they asked for clarification if this was correct. And at this point, I'm just so confused. And that's when the pieces started coming together, as I realized that my dad had sent these people to try and live in my place, even though this is not his apartment to give out for people to live in. This is my own private residence. I own this place. I pay the bills. This place is literally mine. At the time, I didn't even know he had my address. So I go out to meet these people who are looking to move into my place, and there was a lot of confusion across the board. There were 3 people, 3 random sketchy older looking men, standing there waiting to move in. As a side note, I would at most let a friend stay a few nights if needed, but not 3 strange random men. There's literally not enough room, and that's just not gonna happen. As I tried to figure out what's going on, my building manager stayed because she wanted to know what's going on as well, and wanted to help sort it out. The 3 men then proceed to tell me that they are moving into their place. They then asked me for the keys to the apartment, as they claimed that my dad told them that I was getting kicked out because apparently I was just freeloading in this apartment. I asked to see what the address was because I thought maybe they had the wrong address, but nope, it was mine. And at this point, I was just super upset. So I tried to give him a call to sort it all out, but of course, he's not answering at the moment. So I have to explain to them that I don't know how he got my address, but I haven't spoken to this man in about a year. And I also explained that I don't know what he told them, but I'm not freeloading. This literally is my place, and that unfortunately they cannot move in. They then tried to get me to call him again, but I said no, calling won't change anything, and this honestly is not my problem, so I can't help you. I then hear one guy on the phone talking to my dad, and I can hear him telling them that I'm apparently lying, and he was basically coaching them on what to say, stating that I should show them the lease. And at this point, we're all kind of at a loss for words. Luckily, my building manager stepped stepped in and she told the men that they all must have the wrong place. She explained that I'm the only one on the lease and that they will all have to leave and sort it out. I can say that despite them looking sketchy initially, they were all overall very calm about the situation because they got tricked by my dad and they honestly thought they were moving into an apartment for free. So I apologized to these men and said that my dad is a liar and I'm so sorry that he pulled you into his delusion. And to this day, I honestly don't know what my dad thought would happen. But like I said, he's delusional. He probably assumed all he was saying was true. It's all so crazy that I can't even attempt to understand. And honestly, there is no use. After the incident and once the men left, I told my manager thank you and that if anyone ever comes when I'm not home, please give me a call or call the police. Because the last thing I need is for someone to try and move into my apartment while I'm still living there. That is some seriously sketchy stuff. Your dad quite literally was trying to uproot your life, all because of some weird delusion that he has. And worst of all, he dragged 3 strangers into the situation, and they got sucked up into his mess. So hopefully this never happens again, and hopefully you're able to avoid your crazy dad, because this guy is delusional, and he clearly does not have any good intentions towards you in the slightest. I got ghosted by the guy I fell in love with twice, and now I don't know what to do. I matched with a guy in June of this year. After 2 months of talking, feelings grew intensely between the both of us. For a while, it did feel like his feelings were rushed. He knew I was the one 2 weeks into talking. He even had me meet his mother over the phone by the first month. It was intense and really fast. I'm the type that slowly falls in love, so I was very hesitant and expressed my fears of starting something new because I have a history of being hurt as well as being stuck in toxic relationships. Now, we never met. We first planned on seeing each other late July, but he had transportation issues. He had told me he'd make it up to me by staying with me for a weekend before visiting his family. He planned on asking me to be his girlfriend during this stay. I should add also that he's in the Air Force, so he had not seen them in a year. A week before this, communication decreased. For 4 days, I hardly heard from him. This is coming from a guy who would make sure to always talk to me every day. We would have nightly FaceTime calls and everything, so naturally I got anxious. We talked a couple days before he was going to visit, and after I told him that I could not depend on him, he got triggered. I was going through some health issues, so not hearing him during that time was really painful for me. He told me he was apparently done with this, and after an hour of crying on the phone, I asked him if he was going to still see me. He said yes, I promised to, so I decided to give him space until then. The day came for him to come and see me, and I heard nothing. He ghosted me for 17 days. At that point, I was making my way through the heartbreak and trying to move on. Then he texted me this long message. In summary, he said he was insecure and ashamed of himself, telling me that I was perfect and that he couldn't give me the love that I deserved because he didn't love himself. He said that he thought about me the whole time and that he knew he messed up. He then asked me to forgive him but not to forget. I asked him to have a phone call with me because I didn't want to text back and forth. We had a 2-hour phone call where I interrogated him and he answered all my questions. I told him he disrespected me and I didn't deserve that treatment. I said I couldn't be with him and that I had no trust in him now. He said he understood and that he felt guilty, but asked me to still be in his life because he wants to prioritize the people he cares about and that apparently I'm one of them. I agreed to it, but said he needed to work on building my trust back. And after that call, I felt content. A few days went by and I reached out and I still heard nothing. It's been a week and I called him and it went straight to voicemail. So I'm assuming he's ghosting me again. I feel stupid for thinking that he'd be empathetic enough to know not to make the same mistake again. I feel heartbroken all over again. Why did he come back and express all these things just to ghost me again? How do I move on from this situation fully? I feel like his ghosting pattern allows him to keep this relationship open-ended, and I just want him to let me go. What should I do? I think you need to do exactly what you're implying. You need to let this guy go and move on with your life. He's clearly not serious about this relationship, and he definitely does not prioritize you or your time. So if I were you, I would just move on. This is just not worth the energy or the anxiety to deal with someone like this. It could be as simple as you sending him a text message and saying, "This situation isn't working for me, and I wish you the best of luck." Then you just straight up block him and move on. He clearly does not care about you. And honestly, you can do so much better than somebody who's just gonna ghost you every single time you make up and try and improve the relationship. My boyfriend has no job or money, and he wants me to move out with him. And I'm honestly not sure how to go about this situation. At first, I thought it would be fun. Moving away from home is something that is terrifying, and I have always looked forward forward to doing. For some background, my boyfriend and I have been together for almost a year. When the relationship started, I didn't even care about picking a beginning date and decided I didn't want to change him or try to fix him, as I had fallen into that trap with my ex previously. We'd been friends since high school and I'd loved him unconditionally for ages before we got together. He cares about me and he calls me his soulmate. I don't actually believe in soulmates, but when we are together, he makes it all seem like everything is okay and perfect. He was raised by parents with narcissistic tendencies. He's the youngest of 6 and his parents are ready to retire. My boyfriend, however, is not an adult yet. He seems to be left behind by them. They want to move away by 2023, and my boyfriend doesn't want to go with them, mainly because he doesn't want to be living far from me and because they bring out the worst in him. My boyfriend has anger management issues. Almost all of his angry fits are because of fights with his parents. That being said, I don't know how on earth he's gonna move out of his house when his life is currently the way it is. He would have to say goodbye to living with his dogs, and he has no money and no drive to get a job. For example, he couldn't afford 1 scoop of ice cream because he only had $4, and he would have had to use it on the ice cream if he could. So I just paid for both of us. He has no savings, and he gets $150 as pocket money from his parents for vacuuming the house. Unfortunately, $140 of those dollars goes towards his addiction towards the herb, if you know what I mean. He cannot function without it and starts withdrawing in under 2 hours if he doesn't have it. By the way, it's illegal in my country. This is the main reason I am hesitant to move out with him. I fear that he expects me to pay for almost everything. Today, I asked him if he could get a job before our 1-year anniversary. Also, we could potentially move out together by 2023 like he wants. I guess I assumed that over the course of the year, he would change his ways and get a job on his terms, despite all of the evidence to the contrary. After I suggested this, he got so mad at me. He told me that he had been working for 8 hours straight, editing his no-budget movie, and I was making him feel like garbage about himself. At this point, I honestly don't know what it will take to get him on his feet. I am also helping with the production of the movie, and I myself have put more money into it than he has. His only weekly commitments are filming and picking up his herb. He is also a high school and university dropout, so it's not like he doesn't have all the time in the world to get things together. His addiction basically confines him to his messy bedroom. Over the course of COVID, he developed the addiction and severe social anxiety, and now he's scared to get a job because he withdraws in 2 hours, limiting how long his shifts can go for. His parents are the reason he smokes so much, and I was hoping if he moves away from them, his anger issues and addiction could subside. But my hopes are not high. I've tried so many times to help him quit, but I'm honestly so sick of trying to fix my partners. I am honestly the best thing that could have happened to him, but I just can't be a sugar mama. He says he will get a job after the film is finished. In the meantime, he'll be watching YouTube videos and playing on his PS4 while I go to university, teach, and work 2 jobs just to make ends meet while living at home. I don't want to resent him. I love him, and I don't want to break up. We are working on a film together. I just don't want to be taken advantage of. But I'm starting to get the vibe that he really is doing just that. What should I do? I honestly would not move in with this guy if I were you. His lack of work ethic and the fact that he has no desire to move forward with his life and make any kind of diligent, dedicated effort to better himself is more than enough reason for you to avoid this overgrown man-child. Because honestly, that's exactly what he is. And I'm not trying to be rude here. He has every opportunity to get a job and still work on his film. Yes, it is possible to do both. And there is no way you can convince me that he's spending all day editing his movie. That is just not what's happening. So honestly, I think it's time to have a very serious conversation with him. Because I think you know in your heart of hearts, this guy is using you for your money. And unless he gets his act together, I just don't see him changing anytime soon. My girlfriend is being very careless with her words and actions towards me, and I don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years now, and we actually took a break this year due to this issue that I'm going to talk about. She's promised to work on it, but tonight another incident happened, and I just feel crushed. Throughout our entire relationship, my girlfriend has just been thoughtless when it comes to me. I feel that is such harsh wording, but I'm not sure what else to say. She even admits to it. She says she doesn't think about her actions until I tell her that it's hurtful, and then it becomes glaringly obvious to her. It's always after the fact that she realizes this. It started at around the 4-month mark. She always insisted that she has no guy friends, which wouldn't really matter to me in the first place at all. Then one day, she was out with a friend, and eventually I realized she was actually alone hanging out with a guy. They were just friends from university, but she hid this whole thing from me on purpose, like lied about having him as a friend and being with him alone. Then Then another day, she started telling me in very, very fine detail about some intimate situations she's had with previous guys before me, which really made me uncomfortable. During our break this May, she re-downloaded Tinder and met a guy on it, and while we were reconnecting and figuring things out again, she would go over to his house alone and hang out. Again, I had no idea this was happening. That is, until I saw him commenting on her socials. And bear in mind, this was when we were just getting into talking and trusting again. Tonight, she made a comment about a huge insecurity of mine and said when guys have this certain feature that I do not have, it makes her feel incredibly attracted to them. And I could not believe that she actually just described my biggest insecurity straight to my face. I absolutely love this girl, and she can be pretty thoughtful at times, but this is only a handful of situations that have happened. Most of the time, it's great, but I'm actually crippled with insecurity for fear of her hiding something else again and just not thinking about it until I point it out after the fact. She even admits that she fails to consider my feelings when doing this stuff, but she genuinely doesn't understand why, and honestly, neither do I. I love her so much, but I don't know what to do. I just don't understand why it's so hard for her to think about me before she does this stuff. What should I do? This is really inappropriate behavior from your girlfriend. She is not at all considering your feelings and completely being neglectful towards your needs. She straight up lied to you about having a guy friend while hanging out with him in private all while you're together. And personally, if I was in your shoes, I would be very suspicious of the guy she's had in the past. She's obviously very comfortable with lying about meeting up with him after the fact, so it kind of makes me question what else she's lied to you about. I mean, is she even serious about your relationship together? Because it seems like, from my perspective at least, she's taking a very immature approach to all of this, and that is simply not fair for you. So hopefully all of this gets worked out, because if she continues to lie and not think about you when this stuff goes down, then it's only going to damage your relationship with her, and it's only going to cause these problems to become even worse. My roommate's immature and rude behavior is starting to cause a rift in our relationship, and I don't know what to do. My roommate and I met freshman year of college and have lived together for the past 2 years. For the sake of this story, I'll call her Haley. That's not her real name. She has always done little things that bother me, like being extremely messy and not paying me back. But the situation has grown to be so much more than that. As of the past 6 months or so, she has been just plain mean, for the lack of a better term. Whenever I say that I like something, she tries to tell me that I am wrong for liking it, and then gives me a bunch of reasons why. She will also comment her negative opinion on looks or items of a mutual friends, or even strangers out of nowhere. Her comments are almost never positive. If it's not something that she owns or has been accustomed to in her life, it is less than or wrong. This oftentimes hurts my feelings and others. It even extends to the food that I eat. If I just happen to be eating something that she doesn't like, she will tell me that it's gross or looks disgusting to her. Another thing that Haley continues to do is not pay people back, including me and our friends. It especially irritates me because she is given a large allowance from her parents every month, yet the money that me and our friends have is money that we have worked for and earned ourselves, thus making it more valuable to us since we don't have an automatic cash influx without hard time and effort. Haley still owes me so much money for things I have bought her throughout the years and has not paid it back regardless of how many times I have asked nicely. The last major things that she does is complain. Along with the negative opinions, all I hear whenever I'm around her is why things are seemingly so awful for her. She constantly complains about not having things, or that the current situation just simply isn't good. For example, she attended a beach trip with our friends and complained that the sand was too flat, as well as the fact that the king-size bed she slept on hurt her back. She also said that, of course, none of the food was to her liking. In comparison, she would also brag about her beach house and how it's so much better than the one we were staying at. It made me so upset because it made me feel like I couldn't ever fix a situation to ever make her feel content and happy. To top this all off, she's also very selfish. She refuses to help someone out unless there's a benefit for her. Overall, she is very sensitive and has cried and ran away from situations if I have brought this up in any way, shape, or form. Even just simply asking her to pick up her mess or her trash in the common living area will cause some kind of meltdown and cause her to freak out and run away. How do I bring up these topics to her in the kindest manner possible? It has really been exhausting me mentally and emotionally, and has come to a point where it's hard at all just to see her as a good person. Keep in mind, I am one of her only good friends, whereas I have many more friends that I can rely on. What should I do? Your roommate roommate sounds incredibly entitled and very spoiled. Mommy and daddy just gives her an allowance and yet she still asks for money. In my opinion, I would never loan her money ever again. She is super selfish, she does not care about other people, and she has a very negative attitude about everything. I know you feel obligated to try and stay her friend, but maybe there's a reason why she has no friends. And I can bet you it's because of the way she treats other people. I'm surprised you've put up with this for as long as you have, because if I was in your shoes, I would have found another place to live or asked her to move out. And she only runs away and cries because she doesn't get what she wants and she's trying to manipulate you. Like she is literally using that as some kind of manipulation tactic to try and get what she wants. But if I were you, I would not budge on this. She needs to clean up after herself. She needs to pay you back for the stuff that you've given her. And she needs to make the living environment more positive and approachable. Otherwise, this is simply not going to work. I think this can be a case where you definitely think about yourself first and say, hey, you need to conform or something's going to change. And if that drives a wedge between the two of you and your friendship, then honestly, that's probably a good thing. Because real friends don't act like this. And you honestly don't need this kind of energy in your life. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.